Hello and welcome to the EDHRECast, where we're all about Commander, data, and dad jokes. I'm Joey Schultz, and I'm joined by my fantastic co-host. He's heard of a pre-con, but he wants to know about a post-con and a mid-con. It's Matt Morgan. How you doing, dude?
I'm good. I actually have some family news. A family member of mine, he recently quit his job, a very successful lawyer, and he wanted to become a dog breeder. I thought it was kind of weird, but he said he always prefers boxers to briefs.
No in the world did I see that punchline coming. Okay.
I mean, that's fine. I didn't either. He was very litigious about making sure we understood exactly what he meant, though.
Perfect. That one got me good. What a good start. I really appreciate that, Matt, because my dog woke me up at 4 a.m, so I was like really tired, and you just woke me right up with that. That's perfect.
Now, that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm here for.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, speaking of what we're here to do, as folks can see on the screen right now, we got a whole bunch of stuff in front of us.
We have a job ahead of us, is what you're saying, Joey.
I sent you the show notes for this episode, and I feel like you probably had an aneurysm. I'm sorry.
Our normal show notes are like 4 or 5 pages usually. Right. I know we're pulling behind the curtain a little bit here. 21 pages of show notes today, folks. 21. It's gonna be a long one. Buckle up.
We are ranking every single precon because it's the 15-year anniversary of the very first precons from 2011. I know that we all just disintegrated into dust as I said that. I do apologize. Yes. But we wanted to celebrate it in some way, and this felt like a good way. Putting a tier list together of every single one of the precons, ranking them in order. This could be a long one. Maybe some of them will be fast at ranking. Maybe some of them we won't. But I'm excited to debate about these, feel where we place them, and see what the best precons of all time are and what the kind of mid precons are and the ones that we don't necessarily like, all that, from S to F tier.
We have 15 years of precons to go through, so we're going to try to be brief.
Try.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
By the way, if folks want to follow along with these precons, there's, of course, the precon upgrade page on EDHREC. That's edhrec.com/precon. That page shows you all of the precon decks that are out there. And if you click on any one of those, it will also show you the ways that people are improving those precons when they get them and when they start updating and tinkering with their lists. It's a really, really fantastic resource. Highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out before.
Yeah, the precon tool is just fantastic because it's going to show you what the list is out of the box, but also, too, what cards are people cutting? What cards are people adding? And just kind of giving you a general sense of how can I make this deck better in whatever fashion that I'm trying to do. So if you want to keep up with all the precons, because there are so many coming out with every single set these days, head over to edhrec.com/precon and just help yourself follow along with this episode, and also just upgrade your own precons because, yeah, it's a daunting task sometimes.
We are ranking 154 precons in this one episode, so there's a lot of information on that page.
Yes.
It is probably best if we kind of like clarify a little bit of like what we think S tier versus F tier is and how it is that we're evaluating these. Especially as we go back through time, there are going to be some of those older decks which certainly don't hold up today, but how do we rank them? By the standards of then or by the standards of now? What does it mean for a deck to be a flop to us? What does it mean for a deck to be perfect to us? So what are some of the things that you think that you're evaluating these decks on, do you think?
I mean, for me, absolutely. You have to look at them like when they first were released. I know that this is kind of boomer privilege right now, where both of us were playing back then, when those precons first started coming out. Like I had been playing, but I was like, I fully got back into Magic shortly after precons started releasing. So I was able to see these in the wild. I was able to play with these for the most part, and I've at least seen pretty much every single precon in action. So it has been nice to be able to see that. So I'm evaluating them through the lens of what were they like at the time of release. I don't want to. It's if we looked at it from now and looking back, like the older sets are just going to get progressively worse and worse because they just had fewer and fewer resources in the Wizards office to making these precons. So for me, 100%, I'm starting with when that precon first came out, what was it like? What was the experience?
Yeah. And there is, of course, going to be like, even looking back on them, a year out from a precon, maybe we feel a little bit different about it than we did upon release. So that is something we can factor into. I think the vibes are going to be a little bit of a presence here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like, we're trying to be fair to, the 2013 decks and stuff when they came out, because obviously we have a different lens than we ever could have possibly had back then. In terms of like what S tier means to me personally, to clarify that also is like one of those things is just like, it's so good that I feel bad upgrading it. Like, I don't know what I even would do to upgrade it. It is so solid out of the box that upgrading it feels like I might accidentally make it worse. Whereas like an F tier to me is like, I would actively warn people against purchasing that one. I would say, please don't use your money a different way, maybe this deck instead. And in between those, there's a whole lot of different gradients of like A tier. I'd be super happy. This is a good concept that's well executed and it has room for nice upgrades in this way, but it's pretty solid out of the box. Whereas like, I don't know, B could be like, ooh, this is a concept that I liked, but I felt like maybe they could have done this extra zhuzh to it. Versus C and D are the things that either make no impression on me, or D is a deck that has like one redeeming quality and that's it. That's kind of my framework. I don't know if that matches it all up with you.
No, I like a 6-point scale, because then it forces us to say, like, there's no middle point. Yes, there'll be a bell curve, I'm sure, when we're done. But for me, like, B is neutral positive and C is neutral negative. So like B and C, like I don't have a strong feeling one way or another, but because I have to give it a plus or minus, that's my differentiating between B and C tiers. Cool. But also too, there's gonna be a bunch of factors in there, like how was the strategy played out? Were there powerful synergies in the deck? Were there good reprints? I know that's something that everybody always cares about. With reprints, just novelty too. Like, have we seen this strategy before? If we have, is it doing something different, or is it just kind of rehashing the same thing? We're going to see that a lot with these precons, just having played with a lot of them over the time. And then, of course, the new cards. What cool new cards did we get to see in this certain precon, in this set, and then kind of progress from there?
Yeah, I really, really like that clarification, that breakdown. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. Because certain strategies, like, I don't know, +1 counter, or even reanimation, those types of things might feel like kind of meh to other people, but then you come across another one, and you're just like, oh, I've never seen lands done this way before, and that could be really intriguing. Or like elementals, wow. So there could be a handful of those things. But with that, that's a lot of clarification, a lot of qualification about how it is that we might be evaluating this. Let's get to the freaking evaluation now, man. And we're starting with the most recent ones. The actual Marvel decks are, fully revealed here. We actually have some differing opinions on these. Let's see where it is that we can place each of them.
I have to say, just leading off the bat, 2 of the Marvel Superheroes precons I think are just absolute bangers. Avengers Assemble is the one headed up by Captain America team leader. It's the Jeskai Heroes Matter precon. And then for me also Doom Prevails, which is the Grixis one. And it's weird for me saying Grixis seems powerful and cool. But I really like these 2 decks out of the box. The Fantastic Four being 4 color, it seems a little weird to me. I think it's trying to do a little bit too much maybe. Wakanda Forever though, we got a Selesnya precon, folks. I'm so excited. Probably buy it out like just because of that. All of these look super cool, but 2 stand out that are like A tier for me. With the Avengers Assemble, A tier for sure. I think out of the box they are going to play great. They look, obviously we haven't played with them yet. The set hasn't come out yet. But Doom Prevails, Avengers Assemble, they look A tier. They have all the signs. Everything matches up. They have enough payoffs and setups to kind of balance and reward you for doing stuff. Fantastic Four, Wakanda Forever, I'm going to put in B tier for my own personal rankings. But I still think all 4 of these look really, really cool.
So the Avengers deck, heroes pumping them up, that does make sense. To me, it seems like probably the more consistent, but it just doesn't strike me as exciting. The Doom Prevails deck, that one looks scattered as heck to me. I feel like all of the villains have different master plans, that they're all pointed in different directions and aren't necessarily getting along with each other. So I would have been tempted to put that one closer to C. And even the Avengers Assemble deck, I'm kind of feeling more B. The vibes are wrong to me for some reason. So we're already disagreeing. We'll have to find a way to...
I'm sure we'll converge later on down the road, though. So what do you think about the Fantastic Four and Wakanda Forever, then?
I like the direction of Wakanda Forever, having the Monarch, Selesnya, that's really cool. I like it's giving you the tools to get back the monarchy. Of all of them, that's the one that is the most interesting to me, and the one that I would probably be inclined to put into A. The Fantastic Four deck does look a little bit of a mess to me. It does look quite a bit scattered. These actually remind me a lot of the Doctor Who problem, which we'll get to in a bit later, where they have to name so many characters that are all like needing to be represented in a certain way, that it doesn't all converge necessarily into the deck as cohesively as some other strategies that aren't born to those same obligations of a UB set. So I'm feeling pretty kind of just regular whelmed, if not underwhelmed by these, which is a
regular whelmed. So I think we can agree then. Fantastic Four, Wakanda Forever, both go in B tier, correct?
I would have been inclined to put C, but I will follow your lead. I'm happy to go with yours with your take here. That's okay with me.
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly that Avengers Assemble and Doom Prevails are both going to be A tier, but I mean, if you're trying to downvote them a little bit, I get it.
Here's the thing. I like the reprints in them, and the reprints alone.
Yes,
I think those are very nice. The Kindred stuff, Raise the Palisades reprints on some of those. To me, though, I would have put the Wakanda deck higher and the others a little bit lower. But at the same time, these are very initial impressions, and it's not the most fun for me to sink my teeth into.
They haven't come out yet. That'll come out next week.
Yeah,
we'll have a chance to play with them then.
The reason that these feel weird to me to be putting into A and B tier is because of the next ones, which is the Strixhaven decks.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought the Strixhaven decks were some of the most powerful and coolest decks that we'd seen in a minute, and they didn't have an inflated MSRP either. I think maybe it sounds like you were weighing some of the construction and like the hype and the vibes a little bit higher than I was ranking there. And of course, I'm not going to poo-poo on anyone's fun. And if there is hype, if there is joy, then I'm always happy to err and bias towards the side of joy. That's totally cool. But just for me personally, even for the price difference, I'd have knocked the Marvel decks down a full grade in comparison to these. I just loved playing the Strixhaven Precons, and this is where my hype and my joy goes. These were the Dina Aristocrats deck in green and black. It was Quintorius, red, white, leave the graveyard to make your spirit tokens. Rutha Spellslinger in red and blue. Zimone was green, blue, X-Spells, and then there was Killian, white, black, which was sort of a aura, enchantments, goad, Voltron type of mix all in there. I don't think the hype of some of the other decks around this time matches up to just how much fun I had playing these. These are the types of decks that I personally reserve higher spots for.
See, that's fair. And I also gave pretty high grades to Strixhaven. I think that all of the universes within stuff that they've done lately, they just knocked it out of the park. They've done super, super well. I really liked the Lorehold and the Quandrix ones. Again, Quandrix, weird for me to say that I liked it. I would put them both in A tier. And then the other ones, I know, like I said, we'd try to keep things pretty average, but I gave everything else a B tier. The Prismari, Silverquill, and the Witherbloom decks. That's where I would put them.
I'm very much, I didn't have a single thing below B here as well. Quintorius, I was actually tempted to almost give an S. I don't think it quite gets there for me, but I love the way it plays. I really enjoyed it.
Plays really, really fun. Yeah, there's so many different rewards, and it's the novelty on Quintorius. That's where it really, really gets me.
Yeah, and so these are revisiting some of the same themes that we saw before with regular Strixhaven. Quintorius in particular, that's the Lorehold deck that is getting stuff out of your graveyard, and your Planeswalker commander is making you those 3/2 spirits. We're clearly agreeing on A there for Quintorius. The other ones we can hash out a little bit. You said that you really liked the Quandrix deck, which is Zimone, cares all about X-Spells, which gets bigger and bigger as you're casting more of them. The knock I would give against that deck is that Zimone is a very, here's a lot of momentum in my commander, and if you knock her out, suddenly the deck really halts in its tracks, which is
that's fair.
True of a lot of commanders. So I knock her a little bit for that, but it's still an exciting deck and a very fun concept that I think was executed in an extremely competent way. So that's why I also still feel high. You want to put that in A or in B, did you say?
I personally would put it in A, but I'm also a little biased because I've been playing a lot of Brawl lately, and Zimone shows up a lot in Brawl. So I think B is totally fair because your criticisms are correct. The deck does fold if you get rid of Zimone.
Okay, yeah, we can put B there. Whereas, how about Dina? That was the Witherbloom one that's doing very classic aristocracy stuff.
See, it was, like you said, it's very classic aristocracy. There's life gain stuff kind of tacked onto it. I put B just because we've seen it before. It's not really doing a whole lot of new stuff. It's not treading any new ground, kind of like what we are doing with Quintorius, or at least it's not as just like overly powerful, I think, as Zimone. I would feel weird putting Dina above Zimone.
I like your read on that. Dina into the B tier for me. I agree. It's got all of the ingredients I think an Aristocrats deck should have. However, it not being exciting, the vibes on that, I'm happy to follow your lead there. I would personally also put Killian down into B of all of the Strixhaven decks. The Silverquill deck giving a whole bunch of auras and goading your opponent's stuff, that's very cool, but it did ultimately kind of feel like it defaults to being a Voltron deck, kind of by accident, and the strategy's a little bit scattered. A lot of ways that you could potentially take it, but it was a little bit strange for me when put all together compared to the majesty that it felt like playing either Quintorius or, in my opinion.
We have a friend actually that's just getting into Magic a little bit, and he's playing the Silverquill deck, and he has seen the other 4 precons played, and he's like, that's just overwhelming. That's too much. Whereas he played Silverquill, and he's like, okay, this is like digestible enough. So at least it is straightforward enough. Like with all these universes within stuff, you want people to be able to play with new stuff. And so being able to have something that's digestible for new players, I think is pretty important. So I do want to not knock Silverquill too hard.
Okay. Was that an A from you or a B from
No,
me?
I still think it's B tier. I think it's fine with the other precons. Yeah.
Cool. I think we have a slight disagreement here about the last one, which is Rutha Prismari Artistry. She's making you big tokens as you cast bigger and bigger spells. I played against this deck, and it won the game on turn 6. Like I felt like this deck was
pretty great,
going pretty dang hard. So I was gonna put this one in A.
I think that's fair. I knocked it a little bit. I gave it a B just because, yeah, it's a big, stormy, spells matter type. We've seen it before. It's not very novel. But that said, it is super powerful. So yeah, I'm fine with A.
I want to put 2 Strixhaven decks in A. This feels like a breakdown I'm very much cool with. I could have been tempted to put either Dina or Zimone into A here as well, but just the power that I think Rutha is able to express is very good. I still think that these decks are, as a whole, I would place them above the Marvel, but you know, we're gonna have a whole bunch of stuff filling out the rest of this list here in a moment. But the Strixhaven decks were some of the most fun I've had in a while, and I loved how competently they were built. They felt like this is exactly what I want people to be getting from an entire set of precons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, Matt, moving up next, we've got the TMNT Precon, which was led by either Leonardo with one of the character select partners or by Heroes in a Half Shell. This was a 5-color +1 counters type of deck with all of those turtle characters. As you might be able to tell from my tone, I thought that this was a perfectly fine deck, but it did not excite me very much. So I was personally inclined to put it around the level of C tier. What do you think?
Yes, so I played against this a few times actually recently. It didn't really do anything super exciting. Like there was a bunch of ways to get value, but it just felt very fiddly. It reminded me of a couple actually other decks that we're going to talk about here in a minute. This is like generously a C tier deck for me. I didn't love it. This is probably the weakest of the recent precons that we've gotten, because we've gotten some bangers of precons lately. The Heroes in a Half Shell definitely is in the bottom tier of that.
Really? Okay. It's funny. I mean, yeah, we're obviously putting it in C tier. I do feel like it can be pretty competent. I've seen some of those triggers go off, and I'm like, out of the box, I'm like, this isn't a deck that I disrespect at all. It does put together a board that does start to grow, and I'm like, all right, cool, work. But it does not excite me very much. So yeah, I can't place it necessarily higher than this. So that means I think that it's time for us to move on to do kind of a 180 here, because the next on our list is stuff for bro, it's Ashling. Do we already know where the Ashling Elemental deck is gonna go?
I think Ashling is undeniably one of the most powerful precons that has ever been built. I would rank it at the highest tier of whatever. Like you can't just brew a deck that's just as good as this out of the box. I put it in tier broken, but since that doesn't exist, it has to go into S tier.
It has to go into S tier. This is the Dance of the Elements Ashling deck. We both, I'm actually looking at the notes because we had like, oh, things to fill out that we can remind ourselves of notes later. And I had put S tier, and you had literally put, this thing is broken, this thing is cracked.
I think it is one of the most powerful precons, if not the most powerful precon that's ever been made.
Yeah, I'm our first S tier Ashling. Anyone who's played against it probably knows the horror.
Yes,
things wild. How though do you feel about the Blight Curse deck, also from Lorwyn Eclipsed? That was
Blight Curse
-1 counters.
It was fine. It was still pretty good. I would put it in A tier. It doesn't hold a candle to what was happening with Ashling though.
Sure. The issue that I ended up having with this Jund deck is that it felt to me like it was very hyper dependent on what your opponents are doing. You need the right opponents to be able to put counters on a whole bunch of stuff to get the triggers that you want. So I felt like this one would hit a couple of moments of stalling out that were like natural, and it still had, you can put the -1 counters onto your own stuff to get slight, triggers and effects here. But I felt like it really flourished against specific opposition, so it felt a little more circumstantial than others, which is why I was leaning more towards B. But I'm happy to move to A if you feel like it was.
I see. I don't feel that strong about it. I agree that like there were times where it just didn't do anything because you didn't have enough targets. So yeah, B is a fine spot there.
All right, cool. Matt, before we go on, how about a couple quick shout outs from our sponsors?
So if you happen to have any of these precons for yourselves, one of the things that you're going to want to do to make sure that they stay in tip-top shape, it's protecting them in Dragon Shields. We've been working with Dragon Shield as a company for a while now, and they're just one of our favorite partners we've ever gotten to work with. Not just because their sleeves have long been known for just being the highest quality in the business, but also just because they keep innovating. They keep bringing out new products that just always blow us away, whether it's the new Dragon Lock system with all the deck boxes. You make sure, folks, these are coming out this summer. Make sure to get your hands on these new Dragon Lock deck boxes. They have the front-facing slide so you can show off your favorite commander if you got some fancy art. But also, too, they keep coming out with new products like the Guild Pack sleeves that are coming out also later on this summer. So if you want to show off your favorite Ravnica guild, you now have the art put right onto a sleeve that's going to protect your cards while also showing off your support for your favorite guild out there. So if you want to get your hands on any of their new products they have coming out this summer, which, folks, we cannot say enough how excited we are to see more of this, head over to dragonshield.com/EDHREC and use promo code EDHREC when you check out. Not only will that let them know that we sent you over there, but it's going to get you a little bit of a discount in the process, and you're just going to be getting yourself the best ways to protect all of your cards. Whether you're buying a precon, you need a new deck box, you need sleeves, you need all of that, and you can get it taken care of at dragonshield.com/EDHREC.
This show's also brought to you by you, our fantastic patrons at patreon.com/EDHRECast. Supporting the show in all the free ways means so much to us as well. Reviews, likes, notifications, subscribing, hyping, whatever that thing means. Hi, YouTube, you're weird. But your support on Patreon also really goes the extra mile. That is that extra push that really helps us be able to keep doing what we do. There's so many perks over there, from Discord access to exclusive data. For instance, I published a video a short time ago about the least popular commanders, and on Patreon, you can get the full breakdown of that data. So again, patreon.com/EDHRECast if you would like to take a look. And in addition to that, another one of our favorite things to do here is shouting out our patrons. So Kyle Balko, thank you so much. Big shout out to you. Thank you for supporting the show, and we appreciate you so freaking much. That moves us from one Jund deck there to another. We've got Hearthhole, we've got Edge of Eternities, we've got World Shaper.
It's really good. It's really good. I think it's pretty solid A tier for me. Yeah,
only
World Shaper, like, yeah. I mean, it's really easy to misplay it. That's it. The skill floor is very, very high. I've seen people playing it, and I'm like, why don't you just do this? And you could have won the game like 2 turns ago. And I think there's a lot of things.
How's that a knock against the deck?
I think it's a complex deck to play, though. I think that there's a lot going on that, like, if you aren't a very, very skilled player, you lose a lot of points. Like, the ceiling is very high, yes, but the floor also, I think, is relatively low.
If in your description of trying to say a knock against the Hearthhole deck, land sacrifice, all that stuff, you're saying that it could have won 2 turns before people notice, because that to me is S tier strength, man.
S tier strength, yes. Like I said, the ceiling is very high, but the floor is very, very low. Like, I've seen it happen multiple times where people have just been like sitting there misplaying it over and over again because the deck is just complex. There's a lot that you can miss.
Where are we putting this one? I feel very strongly that S tier is where the Hearthhole deck belongs.
If you feel
this is
that
one of the
strongly,
most broken decks I've seen out of the box.
We can put it in S. That's fine.
Okay. Oh man, yeah. Playing this one felt like it was doing stuff that I felt like I shouldn't be allowed to do. I thought it was really, really strong.
Extra lands is always very, very powerful. I mean, Jund decks in general, lands matter. Like, I'm sure we're going to talk about this a lot when we get to, what was the Planeswalker deck that had the Jund land matters?
Oh, Windgrace?
Yeah, Windgrace. I think we're going to say a lot about the same stuff with Windgrace. Like, there's just a lot going on, but also it's super powerful.
Yeah, there's a handful of those strategies, and we see some evolutions of that later on. Some of them do it in an exciting way. To me, the Hearthhole deck was also like inventing upon the lands genre, or giving it a platform in a way that we hadn't seen necessarily compared to other like just generic landfall deck.
Yeah.
So it also felt like had that exciting factor to me. Yeah, I really thought that like Hearthhole is ready to play at the bracket 3 tables just right away out of the box. That felt to me like classic S tier. I wouldn't want to change a whole lot about it. That does move us, though, to the Jeskai deck from Edge of Eternities, which had In-Spirit at the helm, but I think most people for this counterintelligence precon were going with Kilo instead to automatically proliferate. I felt pretty happy with this one. This was a neat space for Jeskai to go into. I hadn't seen that kind of thing done before in that color combination.
I wish they would have been this successful with the counterplay as they were when they tried to do Jeskai Energy like 17 times. That would have been so helpful to pull off. But with that said, I do think, yeah, Kilo, Apogee Mind, the Jeskai counters, you can proliferate all the time. I think that was, it was a fun take. I think it was outside the box enough. And it still did some powerful things. I don't think it kept up with the World Shaper precon at all, but also I think it was still a very fine deck.
Okay. Where does that put it for you? Is that you describing a B or an A?
I think A. I think it's a little bit better than a B tier.
I
B
like
tier
A.
deck. Yeah.
I like A because it was fiddly in a way that still felt like it was moving stuff forward. I liked the direction that it was going. It is kind of a lot to keep track of, but it was a lot to keep track of towards a purpose that didn't make me feel like I was spinning my wheels. Every time that I saw it, I was kind of like, oh, you can do what now? And it kind of became like a de facto, here's a great place for all those charge counter cards. So it also felt inventive in a way that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
So that's fun. That, I think, will now move us to Final Fantasy, though.
Final Fantasy. So let's start off with the what I think is maybe the fiddliest deck that I've ever played. That is the Counter Blitz Precon. And this is coming from somebody who, I love Final Fantasy X. I love every Final Fantasy. I love this set. I love every single Precon in this. Joey, I know that you really liked this Precon. This one, it had so many if-then clauses that like it was mentally exhausting to play.
Really?
I struggle to want to play this deck more. Because yes, it is powerful, but like every single card has some sort of, if you do this, then do this, and then like they all chain together, and it's too much to keep track of. You can build some really, really cool board states, but that also means you're taking like 10-minute turns, and it's just too much.
Interesting. I feel as though right out of the box, amongst all of the Final Fantasy stuff, the Counter Blitz deck, that's Tidus Una's Guardians. Sorry, Tidus Una's Guardian.
It's Tidus. Don't cave into those people.
I felt like that one was not only fun, and I really enjoyed the way that, like, all right, cool, moving these saga counters around, like there's a slight inventiveness there, but I also felt like it was really strong. You get a nice board state very quickly in a way that is very promising as well, and I had a lot of fun with this one just as is, and it also gave a nice direction to upgrade as well. I was, of the Final Fantasy decks, this is the one that I would put in A tier, I think.
Oh, see, I was going to put the Scions and Spellcraft in A, and then everything else in B. They're all good. They all do some fun things. But
okay.
I think the Scions and Spellcraft, that one, you have so much play, you have so much agency over it, and not in a way that, like I said, with the World Shaper Precon, the agency, at least, like, it's not overwhelming. I really liked the Final Fantasy 14 Precon, and all the other ones were still good. Like, I still enjoy playing them. But as far as, like, what are they doing that's novel? Not a whole lot, actually.
You know what? I totally see you on the Tidus deck. Like, it moving the counters around, I do think like opened up some neat play with the Saga creatures, but it is still like, a +1 counter deck, and we have seen +1 counters.
Ban +1/+1 counters. It's been done a million times.
Yeah, so I understand that from there. So the Scions and Spellcraft thing, though, that's kind of an interesting point. The Y'shtola deck. Y'shtola herself is a very good card. She's already like the rank number 3 commander. She's clearly popular. The internet loves a cat girl. However, to me, it was one of those awkward things that sometimes happens with precons where the commander itself is so good that it kind of like overshadows the fact that the rest of the deck is a little bit of a weird mess. And I felt like the deck was a little bit of a weird mess that, if anything, was like reining her in compared to her obvious potential. It had the most obvious need for upgrades. Well, no, actually, I take that back because the Cloud deck was also there. But the Y'shtola deck to me felt like the commander was doing so much powerful stuff that it kind of made us all overlook the fact that the actual deck itself was doing a lot of clunky and jumbled things that weren't all necessarily working together without her being there to help facilitate pieces of it.
So I think that there was a pretty clear line of how to upgrade it, whether you wanted to do Grahatia, the Sign Reborn, which is the backup commander for it, or for Y'shtola. I think both of them had a pretty clear upgrade path that like you wanted to do, and like it's always weird doing these control-y type of pre-constructed decks. Like a control deck is supposed to be like meta dependent, so it's really hard to like go too hard into one lane. I think that was a really big challenge that I think at least that they did pretty well with. The rest of it though, like I said, everything else was fine, but just how much new cool stuff were they doing? There were some great reprints in every single one of these decks, but like I think the Final Fantasy 14, if you play with the backup commander, still is an A tier deck out of the box.
Maybe we'll split the difference or something. I do want to catch a thing about the reprints. So the Terra deck did have pretty bad reprints. The most impressive reprint was like a Rise of the Dark Realms or something. It wasn't that great.
Yeah.
If we are talking about them as a whole though here now, the Terra deck I thought also was just like a very competent piece. Even though the reprints were not good in it,
was fine.
It
was fine.
I thought it was still an enjoyable strategy, and it did the thing well. It having all of those, like, here's all these characters that we have to name, actually worked within the context of we're just trying to reanimate a whole bunch of stuff, compared to like the Cloud deck and the Y'shtola deck. We have to have all these named characters in there, which are kind of distracting from the other strategy, which is supposed to be like these non-creature spells of a certain mana cost and the equipment strategy, which kind of leads me to saying the Cloud deck, I really think of these, suffered the most. It had like 13 equipment in it or something, or like maybe 15. And it felt to me like it was the most hit and miss, unfortunately.
See, I thought that, and again, you have to play the backup commander. If you're playing with Tifa instead of Cloud X Soldier, then like that deck is really, really bonkers. Like there's a lot of upside to be had there. Whereas, yes, if you're playing with Cloud, it's fine. You need too much equipment in there. So a little jumbled maybe. But I think overall the deck, if you play with the backup commanders on both of those decks, they still are pretty sweet.
Okay. So where is it that we seem to be falling here? I had listed the Y'shtola deck because of the 99 as a C. I can't deny her power. You would list her as an A. Do we just split the difference as a B for the Y'shtola Signs and Spellcraft deck?
I'm fine with going B across the board here because I think they're all neutral plus. Like they're not great. They're not going to stand out because like I said, there's flaws with all of them. They're still really fun decks. Like taking all of my like attachment to the Final Fantasy property away and not like overseeding them.
Okay. I would personally like be across the board. I totally hear you on that. I would have personally been inclined to put the Titus deck in A tier, but I do feel instead of B across the board, I do think that the Cloud deck kind of should be a C tier. I really thought that it was not able to consistently.
A C tier. All right.
I felt, this is my neutral minus as opposed to a neutral plus. I really felt like right out of the box, while it should have been exciting, there are so many other things that I think they could have done with one of the most legendary games of all time that this one left me feeling a lot more wanting than I feel like a deck of that stature and potential should have done. That's where
that makes sense. Yeah, leaving up to expectations definitely is a factor that's hard to quantify.
All right, we're splitting the difference on a handful of these, putting the Titus deck Counterblitz into B, putting the Y'shtola deck into B, putting Terra in there. Even if it didn't have fantastic reprints, it still played extremely competently. And the Cloud deck, we were kind of iffy, wishy-washy on. All right, things are shaping up here, and that was going to move us to what's next here. Is it Dragons to Tarkir? It's Dragons to Tarkir.
It is. So we had the Abzin armor, we had Jeskai Striker, we had Mardu Surge, and we had Sultai Arisen, along with the Teamer Roar Precons. So we had 5 of them to go from. Joey, where did you land on these guys?
Okay, starting off with the Teamer one is the first one here on this tier list. Eshki should not have been the face commander of this. Ureni should have been the face commander on this. And with Ureni in the it's an easy A for me. I loved the Ureni deck. It's so powerful and stupid.
Yeah, with Ureni, like, it accidentally just ran people over in games. Like, it turns out when you just give dragon decks a way to ramp and a way to just cast more dragons, cheating them out, it makes it only better.
Yeah. Then there's the Abzan deck, which is Toughness Matters. I was happy to see them return to that strategy again. It had been a minute since we saw it. And it felt that the inventions were nice. It didn't, move me in particular, but I was happy that we had it. So I have a neutral impression leaning positive.
Yeah, I can get with that.
B tier then? All right, cool. What about Shiko and Narset? This was the Jeskai Prowess deck.
It was fine. I'm kind of neutral. Like, this is the one that... this one, like, it didn't excite me. It did some cool thing. Like, I like Flurry as a mechanic, actually. I like that they keyworded Flurry. Gave some ways to play around it, but honestly, like, I don't remember any, like, big, memorable plays that are, like, jumping out to me right now. And maybe that's a knock against me, but maybe that says, like, C.
See, yeah, this deck felt like homework to me.
Sure. Yeah.
Was kind of the thing. I do think like it is competent, but it just was not exciting. So vibes alone, I think we're knocking it there.
I all of these should have had the dragon as the face commander. I think that would have made all of them better.
Technically, Shiko and Narset. Shiko is the dragon, but I mean,
but Narset's there. She's just in the way.
Yeah. Then there's Teval.
Teval's nuts. Teval's sweet. That deck, it functions out of the box equally as well with either the face commanders, which is kind of weird because they're doing very different things too.
It's so funny because Codis was like the least popular of all of the legends that came out from that set, I think.
But it still worked.
Yeah, this Sultai Arisen deck, Teval, I feel like, it filling your graveyard, making you zombies when stuff leaves your graveyard. It is the type of strategy that we've seen before. I think a lot of people looked at it and they were like, oh, Sidisi got a slight upgrade. But I do think that right out of the box, this was one of the decks that was prepared to just whip at a table. I'm torn between A and S for Teval.
I would give it A. The novelty there, I don't remember like any like super cool reprints. Maybe I'm forgetting something.
Life from the Loam.
Yeah. Life from Loam is pretty good. I don't know. Like, like
your
you said,
lack of excitement means that we can't put this in S tier, is what I'm reading.
Yeah, it's a good deck. I'm not excited about it. Like I feel like
Okay.
in order to be in S tier, you have to be like excited, like to talk about it, to play it even. And it was just like, yeah, it's good, but I'm not excited.
Okay, I see what you mean. Then there's the Zurgo deck. That was the Mardu Siege, the Storm Striker guy here, doing a lot of mobilize, making a whole bunch of tokens, and giving you rewards when those tokens died. I thought this was also extremely enjoyable. The only problem is that it lacked a good late game. It lacked some of that oomph, but it had neat new cards. I really like the new cards on the Zurgo deck.
The new cards were good, but also like you didn't need a good late game if you just won in the early game, which is what I always saw this deck doing. Like it was a typical aggro deck. Like if you didn't win early, you lost, but like you won early pretty often.
Yeah, this is how I want Mardu stuff to be done. In thinking back, I do kind of smile. I don't know that I could personally put it on the same par as the Teval deck, but I also, wanted to put the Teval deck into S tier. So where is it that we're feeling on the Zurgo deck on the Mardu Siege here?
I mean, A or B?
A tier or B?
A or B for sure. I would put it in A, but if we're putting it in B, just because like we see Mardu all the time in doing kind of aggro-y things. I liked it though. Like I would fight for it to be an A tier, but it also could go in B.
You don't have to fight me. I'm happy to put it into an A tier. I did. Deal. Of the precons, this is one of them that I ended up playing more often, and I kept on reaching for it. I'm like, ooh, can I try that one again? And so even though it didn't have like all of the late game oomph that maybe felt necessary, like that's still like, ooh, okay, there's cool room for upgrades. And again, the new cards in this one were so freaking cool. I really liked what they were doing here, and this felt like what I want Mardu to feel like. Anyway, up next is our first F. Sorry.
That's fair. I think we're breaking new ground with both of these decks in Aetherdrift. Like, not only was the set kind of a dud, the precons was the most recent. I hate calling things failures because a lot of people spend a lot of time and effort making these decks and making these cards. Mm-hmm. I can't put either of these higher than D tier.
Yeah, we're on Aetherdrift now. Saheeli with the living energy. That's finally we got a Teamer energy deck, and it was confusing and weird. And then there was an Esper Zombies deck, which I'm not mad at, but I'm also just not at all excited about either. I genuinely
I wanted the Temet deck to be better, and it wasn't.
Yeah. I do look at the Saheeli deck and I'm like, I don't think that you should spend your money on this, and that is my qualification for F tier personally.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair though. Like it was not a cohesive deck. It wasn't exciting. We got an energy deck every single year, it felt like, and it never felt good.
I think there was even a year where there were two energy decks in the same year.
Yeah, there was, and it wasn't good.
And we're gonna give that the same.
Yeah, we're gonna give them all D's. Like they haven't done energy well ever. I mean, if we put Saheeli in F, honestly, Joey, like that's fine with me too.
Okay, yeah, I think
I think for me the expectations of like we wanted Teamer energy 10 years ago, and for us to wait this long and to get that deck.
That's a great way to put it.
F tier for sure.
That's a really great way to put it. I wish that I liked any of the energy decks as much, and I think between them you can get a good energy deck eventually. But each one of them on their own just doesn't have the sauce, in my opinion.
Eventually, we'll get there. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Temet though. Where in the world would you put this Esper Zombies deck?
I wanted this deck to be good, and it just never looked fun. Even playing Hashaton, which is the backup commander in it, I can't get excited about these. They just actively like, okay, we got another blue-black zombies, I guess, and ran it. Like, it was unoriginal. It wasn't fun. Like, a D at best for me, honestly.
Really? Okay. I wanted, like, some of the new cards were not just like, here, these only work with zombies. They were like, creature type neutral, and I felt like that gave them applications outside of that. So I wasn't too mad. And Hashaton went on to be, a really big CEDH commander. But the way that this particular precon was built around Temet did not compare, in my opinion, to the Wilhelm deck that we had gotten some years previous. Yeah. So I wasn't mad at it, but like you said, I wasn't excited about it. I would have been inclined to put probably in C tier, but you followed my lead on Saheeli, so I'll follow your lead on Temet. How does that? You're putting this one in D?
That works. That works for me.
Cool.
But if anything, just to get away from Aetherdrift, because the next set at least... The next set still had some good precons. It wasn't our favorite, but like we can get back to at least good precons again. So we got Duskmourn coming up next. So we had four precons with that. We had Winter, Death Toll. We had the Valgavoth deck, which was the Endless Punishment. We had Zamone, the Jump Scare deck, and Aminatu, the Miracle Worker deck. What were the standouts to you then, I guess, Joey?
The standout here obviously was Valgavoth. This was the Rakdos Punisher deck. This was a neat concept that I thought was done extraordinarily well. I thought this one just whipped right out the box. I was inclined to put Valgavoth personally as maybe one of the better decks of that entire year and place it probably in S tier.
Okay, yeah.
That's how I felt about it.
I'm fine with that. Like it was doing Punisher stuff. We haven't seen that in a precon. The Lord of Pain, the backup commander.
And competently.
It competently, yes. Like, and it wasn't doing it in a way that felt unfair or it felt like oppressive. It was punishing people, but also like there was ways to get around it, and you always had a game plan moving forward. That's where I kind of get annoyed with obviously powerful decks, is where they start playing with their food a little bit, and this deck just ended the games. It did it in the right way.
Cool. Yeah, I thought that was a big standout. I unfortunately did not feel as good about the Amanatu deck, though. And maybe that's just because I'm biased from having played these ones against each other. And in that precon environment where Winter's cheating stuff out, Zimona's cheating stuff out, the Rakdos deck is melting your life total. The Amanatu deck was slow enough that I felt was like hard to catch up within that environment. It was a perfectly fine Esper Enchantments deck, but I just found it to be very, very slow.
I think you need to factor in the precon environment, like the sets that it came out in, what decks was it meant to be pitted against, and that's absolutely a valid concern. Like that was something that I don't think I did a very good job of verbalizing for the Final Fantasy precons or for the Dragonstorm commanders when we hit Tarkir, because like all of those were great environments.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Having seen this Duskmourn environment, Amanatu definitely just felt like it wasn't doing enough. Like it was just not just a turn too slow, but like 2 or 3 turns way too slow.
It was well behind what the others were doing. Does that mean you're putting it in C or in D?
I would put it in D. It just it fell flat.
Okay, I understand that. Up next, the Winter. I did build the Winter deck. This was Golgari Delirium. I found it to be very inventive. I think it is fun, but I do think that right out of the box, that deck needed some work. It also had this weird tempo play of needing a little bit more late game oomph than necessarily came out of the box. But I had a whole bunch of fun with it. You can check out all of my decks on Architect if you want to see the way that I've upgraded this deck. But I still recognize it as plenty of flaws, despite how much I enjoyed it.
Plenty of flaws, and it wasn't terribly inventive either. Like Golgari graveyard stuff, like we've seen that a bunch. I think B tier, maybe C. Like I'm on the fence, but like I think it was a fine deck. Like there wasn't anything like overly wrong with it. Just wasn't breaking any ground for me.
Which one would you play of the remaining here? Do you think that Winter was better or that Zimone was better? That was the Manifest Dread flip stuff over.
I think Winter was better for sure. For me, Zimone, it was a bad landfall deck. It was doing worse versions of other landfall commanders.
But was it doing okay versions of face down deck stuff? Because that's also what it was about. Was a whole bunch of face down. You didn't like it?
Really?
You didn't like it?
No, I didn't. I don't. Yeah, C or D tier. Honestly, like I can't remember some fun experiences from playing with that Simic Zimone deck. It was there. It's better than Amanatu. It does have that going for it.
I think that putting the Zimone into C and then the Winter into B, maybe those could be flopped around. I'm not sure, but it does seem like we're kind of leaning that way if I'm reading that correctly.
I think that's fair. Winter is definitely better than Zimone, which is better than Amanatu.
Yeah, I appreciate what Zimone was trying to do. I think it was a competent deck. It was just a complicated deck. Was kind of the weird thing, and I liked seeing the evolution more than the Koust deck that we're going to get to in MKM. I'll tell you that much. All right, this was a nice version of face down stuff compared to that one coming up. But that moves us away from Duskmourn into Bloomburrow.
I really liked this precon environment. This precon environment was a lot of fun to play against each other. Bellow was nuts though. Like far and away, like we had a couple really, really powerful red-green precons. Bellow was sweet. It ran people over super quick. Like this, probably an S tier deck for me. Like this gets me excited to talk about.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
I haven't played with it myself, but I've gotten run over by it, and I'm like, that's so cool. Like it was reanimating things. It was doing some novel concepts and some really cool new cards. And Bellow is adorbs. So like, S tier.
The only thing I would say is just like, there's fewer raccoons in this deck than I might have wanted. Okay, whatever. Animating all of your artifacts and enchantments right out of the box has felt incredible to me as well. So I'm so happy to hear you say S tier. Let's place it there. That is our 4th S tier of our ranking so far. There was also Hazel, which was Golgari Squirrels, which I wanted to like more than I did. I had a very neutral impression. This felt more like a tokens deck to me than a squirrels deck to me. So I felt kind of like iffy on it.
Yeah, I still think it was a pretty successful deck, though. To me, Miss Bumbleflower and the Hazel deck both were pretty fun decks. They played really well out of the box. I would put them in A tier probably if I had the final say.
I'll give you the final say.
They both were really fun. They both, I mean, yes, Hazel was kind of doing tokeny stuff. It was a little less original. Miss Bumbleflower being a weird kind of group hug, but also I'm beating you over the head, like beating you over the head while I'm hugging you. I really liked the play patterns that Bumbleflower had. The deck empowered it very well too.
Yeah, I was also tempted to put Bumbleflower into S, but I might be biased just because of how popular she's become and how good she is. Miss Bumbleflower is a crazy piece of cardboard. But I'm happy to give you the ATR on both of them makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, my only fault with this set, Zinnia, the Family Matters Precon, it was kind of tokeny, kind of not. I struggled with this one a lot.
Yeah, doing the offspring to make token copies of your stuff, caring about a bunch of little things, a lot of ETB triggers. I think that this one had the most fun potential for upgrades, but right out of the box, in my opinion, when I saw it, it felt like it dawdled a lot more than I thought that it should be doing.
Dawdled is a good way to put it, yeah, because when you're taxing yourself, that feels really bad.
I again though, like of the decks, I feel like this was the most fun to upgrade, but it also was probably the most in need of the upgrades compared to
if you need the upgrades, is it really that good of a deck?
Whereas I've just been smashed by that Bumbleflower because she's such a gaslighter. She's just like, oh yeah, I'm group hug, and then she just hits you for 30. Like so does that mean that we're putting Zinnia in C tier?
C tier is fine, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Family Matters. Sorry about it. All right, now we're moving to Modern Horizons 3. And as a note, these were more expensive decks than the others because Modern Horizons 3 was, a pretty big deal. So that should be probably factored into our valuation when it comes to like, oh, the reprints were good. Well, yeah, but the decks were also twice as much money or something like that. But we had the Satya deck, which was a Jeskai energy deck. Woo, we had never seen that before. That was creative energy.
Yeah.
Then
I wish we hadn't.
Then there was Ulalek Eldrazi Incursion. That was a 5-color but also colorless Eldrazi deck. We had Disa, which was just Jund.deck, Graveyard Overdrive, making Tarmogoyfs, and Omo, which was the tricky terrain deck, which was Simic lands, but in a way that we had not seen before, in my opinion. It was giving you multiple land types by putting, quote, everything counters onto your lands. And so a really solid spread here, to be honest, but they probably should be, right? These decks were pretty expensive to get, so they better be
the
good.
fact that these were more expensive to get, like they were over $100, and if you could get them for that even, then like good, kudos to you. That's where I really struggle. Like the expectations were so much higher, and they should have been with an elevated price tag on this. So like everything has a little bit of a knock out of the box, honestly. The one that I think was the most successful, just because it was that just powerful out of the box, is the Ulalek, the Eldrazi deck.
Interesting. Okay.
It is weird seeing like a 5-color colorless deck. It's very weird describing a deck like that. But that said, it's powerful and it's going to run you over.
Hard. The commander copying your triggered abilities when you're casting the Eldrazi as well.
Yeah.
This felt successful. I'm happy to go with you on the A tier for the Ulalek deck. That makes a lot of sense to me. I reacted a little like interesting. You saying that was the most powerful, because to me the Omo deck should also be either an A tier, or honestly I could put the Omo deck in S tier. That's one that did manage to make Simic lands interesting, which I didn't think could happen. And I felt like it, especially the ways that it could win, were creative and easy to navigate towards. I felt that the deck pivoted. If anything, the only knock against it was that it like needs a little more help protecting itself, maybe, because it could be a little bit fragile with its own life total because there weren't quite as many things to defend you. But I really, really enjoyed the Omo deck a whole lot. So I would also rank that one extremely high.
I remember seeing a bunch of people that were super excited about the reprints in this deck. Well, yeah, it was $100 freaking dollars, if that. It better dang well have really good reprints. So I struggle to give it that kudos because of the expectations, again, like for this set specifically, were significantly higher. We might have to meet in the middle and put this in A, because I put Omo in B tier. I think it was fine. I wasn't excited about it, but I was like, okay, like, yes, I see what it's doing, and it is undeniably powerful, but like, again, it had dang well better be, which we can then get to the decks that were not powerful, because I put both these other decks, like the Disa deck, the Graveyard deck, and then the Jeskai Energy, I'm putting them lower than both of these.
Yeah, I do agree. Disa Jar Jar Binks. No, it was actually
Oh no.
No, I actually did like the concept here. The concept alone, I liked the concept more than the deck. I felt like the deck was maybe a little bit jumbled, but it was also like a fun homage to what we all want a Jund deck to be, and a nod to modern.
Yeah, it was retreading literally every Jund deck that we've ever seen before.
Which was nice for a home for them. Wait, so where does that mean that you're putting her? You said that you rank low. Are you putting these both like in negative categories, did you say?
I would put Disa in like neutral, negative. I'd put it in that C tier. Satya though, like definitely a D tier.
Yeah, okay. I can't put up a fight there. The Satya deck, it felt like it didn't even care about energy. And there were a handful of and then there were like vehicles here which don't work with Satya's thing. There could be occasionally a combo, but it felt like hard to align with the actual moments that do make this commander demonstrate its potential compared to. I felt like this deck was fighting itself a whole lot. Disa, I could almost be convinced to put up into B just off of vibes alone. But it did feel like of the decks, this is the one that you probably ought to upgrade, which isn't what we necessarily want from a deck that costs quite that much money.
Yeah, exactly. So next up, another set that was wildly successful, only it wasn't. Outlaws of the Junction.
Thank you for correcting. This is maybe one of my least favorite Precon environments ever. I was like, what are you talking about?
This one, it's is it up there or is it down there on my least favorite sets? Outlaws of the Junction, this one, it was rough. The themes never felt great. Inventive, cool, or whatever. So we had the Yuma deck, it was the Desert Bloom. We had the Grand Larceny deck headed up by Gonti, which is the Sultai Theft deck. We had the Mardu Vampire Outlaws, and then we had Stella Lee doing Is It Nonsense.
Yeah. I did not personally care for very much of these decks. I can admit, however, that the Landfall deck, the Naya Yuma deck, was competent. It felt like here is straightforwardly what Landfall should probably look like, with a little bit of sacrifice in there to give it a slight spin on the desert theme there. I would place it in very firmly a B tier type of deck. It was a perfectly normal experience out the box. I was like, it was fine compared to. Girl,
this was the highlight of of the set. Yeah.
What like the Stella Lee deck could also be strong. She was maybe a little bit more situational, but she could really storm off if you got the right hands. I found her to be like a very good version of Spellslinger, but also exactly what you expect from Spellslinger.
Yeah, it was exactly what you would expect, and it was Stella. Like other Izzet decks that have done this type of Spellslinger foray before, at least felt like he was doing something cool about it, whereas I definitely had the reaction of the meme of like, oh, so anyways, whenever I saw the Stella Lee deck do that, I did like, it never felt like, okay, that was really cool the way you did that. Like even like a Mizzix deck, like that's classic Izzet, and like this just felt like a very boring version of that.
Okay. I would have been inclined to put it in B tier personally. Like, I think if someone did pick up this Is It Spellslinger deck, I would have been perfectly like, yeah, all right, cool. I get it.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So a B on the Stella Lee?
I guess. Yeah. I would
you want to put it in C tier.
I do want to put it in C because I just think there's so many better Izzet decks we've done. Like, if you had to stack this up against like the Prismari decks even, like I would definitely give this below, I would rank this below all the Prismari decks we've gotten.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe when we get there, we can reevaluate. I still feel like I'll stake a claim for her in B just because of like the way that the Precon environment played. The games always came down to either Stella Lee is storming off out of freaking nowhere, or Yuma has taken it because of the Scoot Swarm situation. So whereas the other two were just left in the dust to move into the negative part of the assessment.
Well, let's leave the other two in the dust then. Let's throw them in like D tier, maybe even F tier, and move on.
Yeah. Just the Outlaws deck was so many Warlocks and Mercenaries all trying to get along, and they don't, and it was trying to make them all work, and it doesn't. And then the Sultai deck was such a cool concept. The Grand Larceny deck was a neat idea, but good lord, does it spin its wheels a whole lot. You have to make your deck work in order to then steal from them and then make their decks work for you.
I don't know how they took the original Gonti design, gave it 2 more colors, and somehow made it worse. That's what they did with Gonti.
I did not like it.
It was not good.
I did not like this. Yeah, and maybe we can revisit a handful of these rankings once we're there. But for now, I think we can move on to Fallout. Does this give us bigger smiles?
This gives us some smiles. Yeah, for sure.
Some smiles. All right, you're a bigger Fallout flavor guy than I am personally. So
I do. I love the Fallout games. I loved the set, but building from the set was really hard to do actually. And I know that sounds really weird, but like, I liked the concept of the cards way more than I did the actual cards themselves.
Okay.
So we got 4 precons. We got Wise Mothman, which is Sultai Mutant Menace. We got Kaisar, the Hail Kaisar deck, which was Mardu. We had another Jeskai Energy deck. And then we also had Dogmeat, the Scrappy Survivors, which was kind of a weird deck. It was a little unhinged almost, it felt like. But I think the biggest success and one of the most popular commanders that come from this set is Wise Mothman. Not only was Wise Mothman really, really good, but I also think just like all the things that were going on in the deck, they at least felt like they kind of like merged together in like a cohesive unit.
Yeah, the radiation in the mill, like that with a carrying medic creature type and +1 counters, sounds like you should be doing too many things, and yet it does all actually work. It does feel cohesive, and I do see people actually like play this one a lot. Like it became popular for a reason. Maybe that's the way that I should put it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So of these in the Fallout decks, this is the one that I would be inclined to give A tier.
Yeah, no, definitely A tier.
Yeah. Not that every set needs to have an A tier. That's not how I'm ranking these things. But like, I feel like this was a strong and respectable deck. That if you got this one, I'd be excited to play against it, and I think you'd be excited playing it. Whereas,
whereas here we go.
Yeah, I did not think that the Dr. Madison Lee deck was very good. That's the Jeskai Science. This was one of our first versions of getting that, and I felt like from all metrics, including its reprints, it had the worst reprints of that entire year when you looked at the prices of them. Which, you know, you need new characters. There's only so much room for those reprints. I do kind of personally feel like that's why the Marvel decks, for instance, have good reprints in them. That was true of the Doctor Who decks. Like, oh, the land bases have really good reprints because we have so many new cards eating up the available card slots. Whereas like this Jeskai deck didn't even manage to do that, you know? Like,
I don't know why they can't do an energy deck that just isn't just a train wreck. I just don't understand it. It's to me it's D or even F for the science deck.
I'm putting it in D, but I might move it to F.
That's fine. That's fine.
Maybe we'll see.
As long as it's below C, because like this, it was indeed like one of the worst set. It was one of the worst precons that we've gotten in recent years.
It wasn't great. Although if you put Liberty Prime at the helm, that at least gave you like a direction to go towards, and that's the only
kind of Okay, so what about Dogmeat? This one, I felt like this deck was really torn. It was trying to do a few too many things. The backup commander with Preston Garvey didn't work. I did not like the design of Preston Garvey at all. And I love Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was probably I have more hours on that game than anything else. I felt maybe this is unreasonable expectations on my end, but the deck was just kind of there. It was I'm very B or C level. Like I feel like C minus even.
Okay.
Just because I don't know, the expectations weren't met, and that matters a lot.
I liked it a little better than the Caesar deck, but the issue that I had with Dogmeat was that it was so variable. It either hit really hard or it spun its wheels and couldn't get anything going. And there was not a lot of able to be consistent with the deck, which is a decent knock. And the Caesar deck, it was flavorful, but it did not feel cohesive to me compared to we've seen Mardu.
All four of these decks felt very flavorful. I will give them that. I think they learned a lot of lessons from the Fallout deck where how do we make flavorful decks, but they didn't do it in a way that meant like the decks actually played flavorfully, and they were able to apply those lessons. And so we got to see the benefits of what lessons did we learn with these precons from Fallout and apply that to Final Fantasy. And we saw how much better and how much like the flavor came out still with the Final Fantasy precons, but they actually were cohesive decks. And the Kaisar deck, Dogmeat deck, both just weren't cohesive, I don't think.
Yeah. For not being cohesive, do we put them in C tier? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's, yeah. They weren't awful, but they just didn't, I mean, they could have been so much better.
Neutral impressions, unfortunately, tinged negative, so we're putting them on the lower end of that dividing bar. All right, that moves us now to Murders at Karlov Manor, which had...
Whatever you say, man.
Murders at Karlov Manor.
Whatever you say.
Which had Mirko Vosk, it had Nelly Borka, it had Morshka, and it had Kaust. And I hinted before that the Kaust deck, which was a Naya, this was Deadly Disguise, face down stuff, I did not like it. I did not like that even if you tried to upgrade it, there were not many available options to you. I did not like the way that it played out of the box. I feel like I could go on a bit more of a screed about the things I did not like, but this might be the easiest F tier of the whole list, in my opinion, at least.
I don't think it's an easy F tier, but I do agree that it's probably an F tier, which is, it's wild to me that you change some of the support colors in a face down commander. Like, it's like, it's just so bad.
Yeah, it was not it.
Was not. It was indeed not it. You know what I thought was it, actually, that like was really fun, that impressed me with how cool it was. It was doing some fairly original things. I liked it a lot. There's some cool new cards in it. Was the Morska deck, the Deep Clue Sea.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it only needed a handful of tweaks to make it a really strong clues deck. It also had some really great reprints of that year. I think it might have had some of the highest money reprints in that year, actually. And it was like doing some clue stuff and demonstrating for us how those things could be strong. It gave us like those Tangle Keep Grove or whatever it's called that also turned those things into win condition. Morska, I lean almost A tier for it, do you think?
I think so. I think A tier.
Okay. Yeah. With a couple of upgrades, it becomes a really solid. Yeah.
Tangled Trove Kelp was the card you were thinking of.
Thank you.
And that card is sweet.
Yeah, I felt like it kind of facilitated and provided a baseline for like the things that clue decks would then become, and like demonstrate like, hey, this is a solid strategy. And I thought that was very cool.
Yeah.
Nelly Borka and Mirko Vosk, well, not the Mirko Obsessive Theorist, sorry, are left over. And that was a Boros goad, not even goad, but like suspect and goad to make your opponent's stuff have to hit each other. And also a Dimir reanimation deck, the Revenant Recon list here, which made very normal impressions on me. I am not mad about them. I do think it's notable that like the Nelly Borka deck had some cards like Trouble in Pairs in it, for instance, and also like a Fiendish Duo reprint in there was like $30 at the time, which was like a really great reprint too. So like I want to give it its kudos in those ways. So I felt perfectly fine about them, but I think not excited by them personally.
Yeah, I think you hit the redeeming features of the Nelly Borka deck. It had good reprints. It wasn't a fun precon to play though. I don't think it really did anything really. You could see what it was trying to do. It was trying to do politics, but I just don't think Boros is inclined, especially the support cards that are in the 99 of the Nelly Borka list. They just didn't really play into that theme very well.
And it also has the goad problem of just like, I made you all hit each other and I have no late game. I have like one card in my deck that can take control of the creatures that are goaded.
All I can do, and you have to do it all for me. Yeah. I would put them both into C tier. They both were fine. Okay. But like fine negative. They weren't bad decks, but they weren't great either.
I'll follow your lead on putting them both in C. That's fine with me. I do think that the Mirko Vosk out the box was actually pretty competent to go out there into the world and do some meaningful stuff. I like, maybe I'll fight a little bit for Mirko to be at B tier actually here. I might be convincing myself as I say it. And maybe that's a reanimation bias, to be perfectly honest, but it also had pieces but again, that I would want to see from reanimation. It had a Necromancer reprint, even stuff like that. Like I felt like it was hitting the beats that I would want reanimation to hit. Even if it felt a little bit basic, I was happy with the basicness.
Very basic, but also like very tread upon ground. Like it was doing the most Dimir things you could do. Like I can see arguments for B tier. I think personally, like I would have it stay in C tier, but if you're feeling strong about B, like I can move up with that.
I'm not feeling strong enough to not want to move on. So we can. I lied. No, I'll give it a budge and then I'll see how I feel a little bit.
Fight for your type, Joey. Come on, you have a brand to uphold.
I do. I absolutely do.
So folks, if you would like to get your hands on any of these precons that we've been talking about today, one thing that you can do over at cardsphere.com is actually getting your hands not just on precons, but sealed product in general. You can get collector boxes. You can get just individual packs over at cardsphere.com. So if you want to get your hands on cards to upgrade your precons, you want to get a new precon that's coming out with one of the new sets, you can do all of that. Cardsphere truly is your one-stop shop for getting all of your cards. Like say somebody gets home from their pre-release, they're going to ship something off Saturday morning. It sometimes will get to you Monday or Tuesday mornings. It's just absolutely one of the fastest ways to get your hands on new cards. So head over to cardsphere.com/EDHRECast and sign up today. Get trading, check it out, because truly Cardsphere is one of our favorite ways to get our hands on all the new cards faster than anywhere else out there.
I knew that they helped you trade cards. I've been doing that for plenty of time now, but I am so excited that they're moving into sealed product trading now too. That's a really cool development, really exciting stuff at Cardsphere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's going to move us now to an amazing set of precons.
Yeah, they're good.
The Lost Caverns of Ixalan decks. Admiral Brass, which was the Grixis Pirates deck. Ahoy, mateys. Mm-hmm. We also had Clavilenyu, First of the Blessed. That was a Blood Rights deck, a aristocratic-ish vampire-leaning Orzhov list. Hawkball, the Explorers of the Deep precon, Merfolk, and Pantlaza, Velociraptor, one of the weirdest names of all time. I thought the two of these were good.
Very fourth wall breaking, yes.
Yeah, I thought two of these were good, and the other two were fan-freaking-tastic.
So yeah, I do think that the two really good ones, Hawkball and Pontlaza, the Merfolk deck and the Dinosaur deck, both of them I think deserve all the kudos they ever get. I think there's arguments for S tier for both of them, at least at A tier. And I think the Admiral Brass and the Clavinio, they were there. If they were in other Precon environments, not against Hawkball and Pontlaza, I think they would have stood a chance. But I don't think, like, okay, let's get the negative out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
They just made the same Precon basically with the Grixis Pirates and just put it in the next Ixalan. Like, I want to give it any sort of kudos, but I can't. Like the Ahoy Mateys deck, it was just the exact same thing they did the last time they were in Ixalan, and like the points for originality, the reprints were there. I guess it's really hard to say anything other than C.
It had black market connections in it, which was fine. Like I think this was a solid deck. It just was not personally my vibe. And we do have that issue of just like this is you need to care about this creature type in a way as well.
Yes, it was a copy paste over. You have minimal room for upgrades because like you don't have that many pirates.
I feel like you're indicating C tier on Admiral Brass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think that the Vampires deck was pretty solid out of the box, to be honest. It is thoroughly not my jam, but I also don't want to knock. Like it felt like it did its game plan pretty competently when it came to the Blood Rides deck.
I guess I would also put it in C tier. Like it just really it wasn't. It was just kind of again like these two, like the Pirates deck and the Blood Rights deck, both were just doing rehashed stuff. It felt like the team used all their creativity and excitement for this environment and put it into the two really good decks, and these were just kind of afterthoughts.
Okay. Listen, I've already have budged other things in my way. So if you're feeling Clavilennu and C, at the very least, Clavilennu starts with a C. But I do feel like out the box, like if someone was playing this, I don't think that they would be embarrassed to play it, and I feel like they would have a meaningful impact on the game. I actually found it. I think it even had an Exquisite Blood reprint in there, which was also a really nice thing at the time. But I can't fight too hard for those when we have the next two, which is Hawkball, which I think is the easiest S tier of maybe the entire list. I genuinely think that might be the best precon they've ever made. The Hawkball Merfolk deck, exploring constantly, that deck was like fiddly because it was doing so many things all of the time. Okay. Yeah. But out of the box, I don't even know how to upgrade that deck. It had every Merfolk that we want, and it was absolutely destroying people. It had a fantastic Branching Evolution reprint. That is what I want precons to look like, even though it kept on trouncing every table it was at. Like I thought Aqua was superb. My
Heir Apparent deck has lost to this precon out of the box. Like that's how good it is. I think C
S tier.
I think S tier, just because like it is so over the top powerful, and I think part of it's just because the commander is that good. But it was a cohesive deck. Like it was pretty easy. It suffers a little bit, like you said, from the Titus deck, where like it's fiddly. Like there's so many game actions that like don't amount to a bunch, but you do it so much, like you do get advantages over time. Pantlaw's the same thing. Like if you fought to put it in S tier, I'm not gonna fight back. At least at A tier for me.
I probably would for the Pantlaza deck. I initially was thinking, the dinos are not really my thing. I look back on this one, it had a Chroma's Will reprint in it and stuff like that too. And it's just solid. This is another one of those things that like, I think that this is what I want precons to look out of the box. I felt like the Ixalan had two really fantastic entries right there in 2023. I thought it did a fantastic job. So I guess that is me fighting for it. I guess we'll put it in S tier, and I think that means that we'll move on. if that's cool. Yeah. If you want to fight to rearrange any of those places, though, I totally get it.
I'm not fighting you. Let's move on into Doctor Who. That had 4 precons, all of them focused on.
Sorry, this part of the notes is so funny. You had just like D's across the entire board, and that's very funny to see.
Yeah, the set exists.
These were not
exists. These were not good. I
got these and I wanted to like them. I'm not even a huge Whovian, but I wanted to like them, and I can't ignore the fact that there are actually many faults with these.
I have friends who are Whovians, and they saw these like it. I don't get it.
They did not
like. I
the
feel
gap.
bad.
This is not what we want Universes Beyond to do. Yeah.
Once again, like I hate to knock these sets and say they were a failure. This set felt like a failure. Like it just didn't do anything. It was too complicated. Out of the box, they were confusing. They're terrible for new players. That's one of the biggest lessons that I'm glad they learned is if you're going to try to bring in new people because they like the IP that you're portraying on Magic cards, they have to be able to understand it. And I don't think any Doctor Who fan whose first exposure to Magic the Gathering understood what this game meant, because this was such a far removed place from what normal precons are. I can't in good faith give these anything more than a C for sure, but like I would put them in D.
The one that I would say actually felt like, you know what, you can hold your own and you can do stuff. I thought that the Davros deck, the Masters of Evil, it had artifact creature theme and also so much removal in it that I felt like it actually is like fine and it knows where to end the game. So I would put it above like the other decks personally, just as like, is there a standout? But even then I still put it at C. The Timey-Wimey deck, that was Jeskai Time Counters, such a neat idea, done so not great, and there's only one win condition in the deck and it's Rose Tyler. And then the 13th Doctor as well, which was a teamer playing from places that aren't in your hand, that Paradox ability. Sounds cool. None of the cards cooperated with each other. None of them at all. And it had that, again, issue of we have to name all of these characters in here and they're not all cooperating with each other. So I would agree with D for most of them. I would personally advocate for Davros to go into C tier, but Matt, I don't agree at all that the Blast from the Past deck, the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane, should be a D tier. That's an F.
Okay.
Girl, she wasn't good. I really don't. I got that deck. I played it. I was like, this deck doesn't know what it's doing. I don't think it knows how to win the game. I don't think it's heard of Magic much before. That thing was... I would have felt embarrassing
not
giving
practicing
it to someone.
Magic.
So... I mean, if that's cool,
I won't fight you. Yeah, if we can put that in D, or in F tier, that's fine. I can give one deck an upgrade, and if we want to give the Masters of Evil deck a bump up.
But it is still all around. These weren't. Some of the cards individually were interesting, but as a whole, they felt very jumbled, very clunky.
Were they, Joey?
I think so. I think there was like some interesting attempts at stuff in here. The Paradox was an interesting idea. The Time Counters were an interesting idea.
I did like Quantum Misalignment. Quantum Misalignment was a fun card, yeah.
Yeah, and that one getting a reprint actually in Marvel, a kudos to the Marvel stuff there. Like there's a handful of those, and I'm just like, I like what they were attempting to do. I do not think that they succeeded. The nicest thing that I can say is that one of them is a C tier, but I don't want to dwell. I don't want to malinger.
Let's get something exciting. So let's get to Wilds of Eldraine then, to get away from Doctor Who.
Great set of precons.
Great set of precons, absolutely. So we got two of them with this set. It was the Tegwell Fey Dominion, which was Dimir Fairies, and then we also got green-white enchantments with Virtue and Valor with Elevere of the Wild Court at the helm. You said they're great, so which one would you say is the bigger standout?
To me, the Fairies deck is exactly what I think a Fairies deck should look like. I would be inclined to put that minimum A tier, if not S. I thought it was extremely impressive.
I agree, A tier for sure. Like getting to play these, we were at an event together, and we got to play. It was right around the release of Wilds of Eldraine. We got to play all these precons against each other. Tegwell, like there's always something to do. There's a lot of expression. There's a lot of cool new cards. Tegwell was a sweet deck for sure.
Yeah, I find it very, very strong. The Elevere deck I would place in a very polite B. I think the new cards were like
a polite B.
Yeah, each of the new cards are like one or two more mana than I wanted them to be. So the new cards themselves didn't necessarily impress me, but I still thought it was a really fun and enjoyable place to take the enchantment type of direction. I was pretty happy with it overall. I thought these were great precons.
No, I think that's a polite B. Okay. I part of me wants to fight for it to be an A tier, but then I have to remind myself I haven't played it because I gave it away to a friend who was getting into Magic, and I was like, I'm never gonna play this deck again. And so B tier seems fine. Like reminding myself of what I did with that deck.
Cool. That moves us now to Commander Masters, which we're doing I'm getting whiplash from some of these. We had a set of precons that was not great, then a set that was great, and I think we're back to, unfortunately, a set that was not particularly great all around. The Commander Masters decks... Yeah, right? Like, that's the sound that my soul makes when I remember these. Was, we had Julodok, Voidgorger, that was the colorless Eldrazi Unbound deck. We had Onyxia, Enduring Enchantments, that was a Abzan Enchantments deck. We had the Commodore Guff, Planeswalker deck, and Jeskai, and the 5-color Sliver Grave Mother, a Sliver Swarm deck. these were also so expensive. And I do not think that the
Yes.
reprints or the strategies or the new cards justified how expensive that they were. So I have some pretty negative feelings about the ways that these ones came out personally.
I also agree that with the price increase on these, the same arguments that we said about the Modern Horizons precons applies here. Like, yeah, the reprints might have been good, but like they needed to be, otherwise people are going to revolt.
Yeah. Like the nicest thing from, like, I think the Enixthia deck was it was hitting most of the reprints that I think an enchantment deck should have. As in, like, it has the enchantresses in it, not that they were all like crazy super expensive. But even then, with how expensive this deck was, the highest I'm personally feeling on it is a B tier, even despite it like feeling like it was a strong deck out of the box. It was so much money to get that I feel kind of bleh about it personally still.
Yeah.
So B is me smiling upon it.
Fair. Yeah. No, I think that's fair. If we're going to go to the next ones, though, I do think Commodore Guff, the Planeswalker party deck, that one, I don't know. We weren't very positive on this when we were talking about Leori a couple weeks ago. Like, there was potential there, but there's not a lot to be doing. I would argue that Planeswalker decks in general, they have a really, really steep uphill climb to be relevant. And so for me,
Sure.
Commodore Guff, that's probably a C tier. It was,
Yeah.
there's nothing like overly wrong with it, but it just wasn't excelling at anything either.
It was a lot of bold ideas in that deck that were all done very timidly. Like the execution was timid.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
You got to give me a reason to play it.
Yeah, it felt kind of to me. Then there's the 5-color and the colorless, Juladoc and Slivergrave Mother. I found the Sliver deck to have one of the roughest mana bases out there. It didn't even manage to reprint a Sliver Hive, which is wild to me. I think the Slivers on their own are like kind of competent, but I did not think positively upon the Slivergrave Mother.
For me, all of the new cards are doing a lot of heavy lifting with that Sliver deck.
Okay.
I don't think it was a fail because like we also don't get very many chances to do slivers. So when there's very, very specific expectations when you're focusing on a certain creature type. So there's very specific expectations with the sliver deck. I get what you're saying with the mana base. I was going to put it in B tier because like I said, the new cards were super cool. They played around with a lot of really cool creature type matters type of cards there. Could we meet in the middle? Titan
of Lityara.
Yeah. Like Titan of Lityara was sweet. I love that card in so many different decks. How about we meet in the middle then with C? Like you tried hard but didn't get their C.
We'll meet in the middle, but if it were up to me, I'd go down towards D for sure.
Fair.
Put a taste in my mouth.
All right, so what about the Eldrazi deck then?
This is another, like, C is the highest I feel like I can go. Just because this deck had so many weird non-bows in it. It did not have, like, Juladoc cares about cascading twice if you play 7 mana cards or higher. And it had so many 6 mana cards in the deck. And the backup commander was an XX that costs 0. So if you cascade into it, it doesn't do anything. I felt myself pretty frustrated as though this deck was kind of stumbling over itself. Like, it was neat to see, though, as a concept, getting a fully colorless deck. I think that was the first time that we'd ever seen that. So there's only so mad that I can be, but it's still
also like it was more expensive than otherwise. Like I think I'm with you that it's a C tier deck, just because it was going with all the basic versions of cards that we wanted to have in the deck. Like instead of having some like really cool, like we had Bane of Balaged instead of some of the Eldrazi Titans or stuff like that. And obviously, like we don't need to put Eldrazi Titans in precons, but some of the more powerful Eldrazi in there. So like we had to like get the downshifted versions of those.
And it also didn't even feel like it was trying to be Eldrazi so much as just like colorless in general. I don't know. I guess like I'm looking at these and I felt an inclination to like, I don't know, do I argue to put these farther down? But then I do see what we have in D tier with like the 13th Doctor deck and stuff like that. So like I guess that those are on a different level, even though it cost more. So I'm probably allowing a bias to filter in there. So I'm happy with their placements here. I just the fact that these were so expensive and missed a mark. You know, and they hit potholes that I didn't even know existed with a precon. There were a handful of those things that kind of feel a little bit funky. But anyway, we've been doing some whiplash of like a weird set of decks and then a great set and then a weird set. And now we're back to what I think is overall a pretty great set. We're moving on to Lord of the Rings is next in our reverse chronological order here. That was Galadriel, that was Frodo, that was Sauron, and that was Eowyn.
I mean, Lord of the Rings was sweet. This was one of the best-selling sets for a long time until Final Fantasy came along. But the precons also were really, really good. With that, I know we talked a couple weeks ago about one deck, one commander that we didn't like. Let's get it out of the way. The Galadriel deck, the Elven Council. It's
the
bad.
precons were really good. Asterisk.
if you only count 3 of them.
Yeah.
If you only count 3 of the decks, they were really good.
I hate to say this about, you know what? No, you said this and she was disappointing. I would put that Galadriel deck in F. I really would. I thought it was so clunky and weird and confused.
Probably, yeah.
This is my girl so confusing.
I think so. It was trying to do like 7 different things, none of them very well.
Okay, I'm so happy that, like, all right, on F, because I hate to besmirch Lord of the Rings, which I know is so near and dear to your heart, but out of the box, looking at those 100 cards, I was like, what are you trying to accomplish?
I besmirched Doctor Who for 5 minutes, so I can take my licks here too. I do, like, yes, I agree, probably an F.
But that said, the rest were great.
The rest were great, yes, I liked all the rest. Sam and Frodo, one of my favorite decks. I have that with like as many of the Surge foils as I can get. Like I love this deck so much. At least an A. It does a lot of really fun things.
I was gonna say A or S. I feel like that deck just out the box completely stomped me.
Listen, I was trying to stay neutral as possible. If you want to put an S, like you're the one putting it there.
All right, cool. You know what? Because the fact that this also delivered conceptually, like vibes were immaculate, but also the food strategy is strong. And I hate the food strategy. I really do not like playing it, or even playing against it feels like kind of funky to me. And yet this deck just whips. I just felt like it was really great. It can kind of get stomped on within the precon environment. I think that the humans deck does kind of smush it a little bit. So there's definitely that factor. I think the humans deck is also like pretty competent and a lot more aggro than this one always is able to keep up with. But as a piece of cardboard, this one made me so happy. It was doing a lot of fun new ground too. Like we didn't really have a dedicated Abzan food, so it was breaking a little bit of new ground there. But also too, like it was just playing around with a lot of cool different creature types, having the hobbits in there. I love it. Like this deck, the deck feels like home. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's like, if I were to talk about like what are the precons that stand out in your mind, this is one of them. That's why I put it in S. It's like I would say like, oh, that one excites me, despite the fact of being a strategy that I never thought would. That does get us then to the Jeskai Humans deck led by Eowyn, and of course Sauron, those dark forces. That's a Grixis baddies deck going on there. I felt like the Sauron deck was a little bit more jumbled than the others, but I'm not sure. It
was a little jumbled. I put both of them in B tier. I think they both do a good job at doing what they set out to do. Okay. Yeah, like yes, the Sauron deck was a little jumbled, but like also if it popped off, you just like felt unstoppable in that precon environment. Sure. I really liked it. I like all 4 of these existing. I like playing 3 of them. B tier for Sauron and Eowyn in my mind. But also if you upgrade the Eowyn deck, like it can go really hard.
I think actually, like, upon that, I'm tempted to indulge a little bit more and actually put that Eowyn deck in A tier.
Sure.
Because like it has an exciting place for the upgrades to go. I think that there were, it trying to hit the humans thing and the monarch thing in the same deck. Not all of it was executed perfectly, but that still made it exciting. And if someone were to get that, I'd be like, oh, great way to spend your money. I'm so excited to see what you do with it. So I felt like it was still pretty strong. And I feel as though you were having this moment of like, I'm trying to be unbiased. Because I just love this property so much, but I'm telling you that it's okay for you to be biased. The vibes can't be part of the grade here, and I do think that is actually something that allows us to upgrade these. We were excited by them, and I thought that they hit their marks really well. So if it's okay with you, I'm happy to upgrade both. Upgrade the Eowyn deck to A.
Done and done.
A win. A win.
So we're moving on now. March on to the next set.
March of the Machines. Not April of the Machine, not December of the Machine. It's March of the Machine. I'm getting whiplash again.
I feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel really bad. Like this, we just got to talk about like one of my like flavor-wise favorite precons, and then in practice, one of my least favorite sets, because March of the Machine was pretty rough. I really liked the Sidar Jabari deck. I think Sidar Jabari was fun, like being able to loop things around. We didn't really have good knight support in those colors before. I really liked the Brimaz deck. Like I think Brimaz was kind of undersold a little bit. That said, they're not good enough to outweigh the other 3 decks here.
Yeah, so here we had Bright Palm, Call for Backup. That was a Naya +1 counters deck. Sudar Jabari, as you just mentioned, that was Esper Knights. It gave us Eminence again, and I thought it was actually doing it in a very fair way as opposed to a broken way. Kozla was the Jeskai Convoke deck. Divine Convocation was the name of that one. And then Gimbal, Tinker Time. I think we already know how I feel about that one. And then Brimaz as well was Orzhov Incubation. I feel as though, to start with a positive note on this, Sudar Jabari, can we both agree on A tier for that? I liked it. I don't know how you feel.
I think so. Yeah, it was doing enough new things. It had enough support in it to feel like a functional deck out the box. By most of our rubrics that we have here, most of our guidelines, it's a pretty successful deck. Yeah.
Like, I could encourage someone to go out there. I would feel pretty happy saying, like, oh, if you're thinking about it, I would say, yeah, that's a great way to go. Where's the others? Where's the other ones? I did.
Oh, like the other ones. Like I said, I really liked the Brimaz deck, the growing threat. You get to do a lot of stuff with incubate tokens. You get to make some actually pretty big armies pretty quick, depending on how you play it. And also but man, it can do some really, really powerful stuff if you're playing it right.
I wish it had a Worm Coil engine in it, just to like make sense of the deck is kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
But I think I might be a little bit about the whole set, and so I should give this one points.
I totally get that, because the set is not great. Like that's just how bad the other three were, though.
Yeah. So the fact that this one was attempting to do a new and original thing in Orzhov, and it was not a complete whiff, I should like give points to. So you said that you really liked it. I was leaning towards D tier for a whole lot of these, if not F tier actually for a lot of these. But I think have more experience with the Brimaz deck than I do, so I'm happy to follow your lead on where that one should go.
I mean, I was going to argue A, but if you're that negative on it, like taking out my own experiences and trying to find like that net, like I think B tier is a good home for it then. Because the rest of them are going in D tier and
or F.
or F. Yeah, or F.
I fully would put two of these remaining in F tier. I think the Bright Palm deck, the Call for Backup deck, was not what +1 counter deck should look like. I did not think it was good.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I could put it in D. Maybe I'm being harsh there, but it was a void of excitement. It was an energy vampire to me. I just did not think that it was doing the thing. I'm so sorry to people who built this deck and upgraded it. I think you like it. I'm so glad it brings you joy. This one was just it was not it for me. And then that Tinker Time deck, Matt. That Tinker Time deck is so bad.
It's pretty rough. I just want to rewind a second. Like, I love that like Bright Palm is your Colin Robinson. It is your energy vampire that's gonna like come and just like drain you of your energy. I just love every second of it. But I agree. It's D, maybe even F, and Gimbal for sure is F. That deck, no matter what commander you do, it's not. It was trying too hard to be cute, and just there wasn't enough payoff for being cute. Like it was, yeah.
The highest value reprint in the Tinker Time deck was a freaking Tireless Tracker. Need I
Which
go
is like
on?
What, $3 or whatever now?
It might have been $6 before that reprint. I'm just like, that was, I did not care for her. Bright Palm, I'm probably being too harsh. So maybe D is a more sensible place for it to go, because it does.
I had Bright Palm in D.
Okay,
I had Bright Palm in D as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it can still play Magic. I just did not think it was an exciting way to do it. And then there's the Kozla, the Divine Convocation deck, which is all about Convoke. I found that this one also had that almost Zimone kind of issue where it really relies upon your own momentum. You need these creatures to be giving you the mana for all of the Convoke spells in order for the deck to work. So if any step of that gets disrupted, it really lags back immediately. It was kind of my impression. How did you feel about this one, though?
So Kozla has the same problem that we're going to talk about. We've been hinting towards it a lot when you're doing a commander dedicated to a certain mechanic, and that mechanic just doesn't have enough support for it. Like anytime you have a commander that like specifically dials in on one mechanic that we haven't seen a lot, and especially when you're doing it in new colors too, like Kozla doing it in Jeskai versus maybe Selesnya or Naya took out a lot of the support for that. So you're kind of kneecapping yourself in terms of what you're able to put in the deck when you upgrade it. That's a problem because you like the stuff that blue offered didn't outweigh the stuff that was lost when you took out green. And so for me, C tier seems pretty nice. I would probably actually lean more towards D tier, honestly. But I mean, how are you feeling, Joey?
I was also like, I wish I liked it more, but the upgrade path, as you mentioned,
same. I wish I did, but there is no upgrade path because you are so limited in doing Convoke outside of Convoke colors.
Yeah. Goodness. Yeah. I probably think the Nesting Dovehawk original card that came from this does maybe land it more towards C tier compared to the Bright Palm deck.
Sure.
Which, so
Sure.
like, I guess I'll give it a plus for that. But if you want it to be in D, it will take a butterfly passing next to me is enough
C
wind
is,
to move me away.
C is fine. Like, I want to make sure we're not just throwing everything that we didn't like in D. Like, it's, yeah, Kozil's fine in C.
Okay, cool. Connected to March of the Machine, before that we had All Will Be One, which had the Corrupting Influence Ixhel deck and Obzon Infection and Poison Counters list. A curious and interesting place we had not seen before. And Nayali Rebellion Rising, which was for Mirrodin and carrying out your tokens and your equipment in Boros. I know, equipment in Boros. Never before had the world seen such a thing.
Never before seen. Yeah. I will say, like, yeah. The set is called All Will Be One because it will be one short conversation. Like, I think these are both like C. Like, there was nothing inherently wrong with these. But also there wasn't anything right with them. They were forgettable. Like, you could easily move on to the next thing from playing these, and they just didn't have any staying power. The new cards weren't super exciting either.
Well,
like,
the
they don't check many boxes.
Concealment. Like, Clever Concealment was a cool card. So like, I actually do think, like, I think I've said it before, the Nayali deck I actually think is a lot more competent out the box than it looks, but like you said, it also made just such a neutral impression and no one cared.
It was doing the exact same thing that like so many other like Boros tokens deck have done though.
Yeah, it was doing the same thing. It was doing them well for one of the first times. But yeah, if you said C across the board for both of these, I don't think I can fight that at all. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Oh man, like all of this, and like, Joey, we're only through 2022.
Yeah, we're only just now getting.
We've only gone through like 3.5 years of precons.
However, for some of the earlier years, they only had like 4 decks for the entire year. So I hope that the rest of it will go a little bit quicker as we continue. But yeah, this brings us in a reverse chronological order now to the Brothers War precons, Mishra and Urza, a Grixis artifact sacrifice type of list, and an Esper make a whole bunch of construct tokens getting bigger for each artifact that you control. You and I seem to have pretty similar feelings about these. I know that we've complained about certain aspects of them before and praised certain aspects before.
Both of these have very, very different grades. I feel bad because like I tried really hard to make the Mishra Eminent one deck, the Grixis artifacts work. It was really hard, and just like the deck takes so many game actions for not a lot of payoff, and it really stinks. It's like, I want to like the deck. It came out all in Old Border, which was such a like nice little touch that I loved that about the deck, but that was kind of where that ended. Urza, on the other hand, for me might be an S tier deck. That thing did some really fun things. It was super powerful out of the box. Had some really cool new cards. Had some great reprints. Like, this deck did so much so right.
I was more inclined to put A tier for Urza, but I was also feeling like D tier on Mishra.
I'm 100% with you. D tier on Mishra.
Okay.
It wasn't a failure of a deck, but like, it wasn't exciting to play. It just kind of fell flat. Like, they marketed these both so wrong. They said that Mishra was this go big deck. It's making 4/4s. Yeah. And then Urza's the go wide deck where you make a bunch of smaller tokens. Well, Mishra makes the 4/4s and Urza makes the 7/7s and the 8/8s and the 9/9s, and it gets so out of hand. Yeah. It's so ridiculous how far off they were on just the marketing around these. Like, I think Urza is probably one of the most powerful precons at that time that we had ever seen.
At that time, so, I do think that's a good point for us to re-inject into the conversation. Like, especially as we go back, we do have to evaluate a little bit of just like what was the impression as they arrived, rather than just looking at them through the 2026 lens. I still feel a little bit more A tier, but you praised a whole lot on Urza. So do you want to fight for it into S?
I would love to fight for it to go into S. Like, I just remember playing against that and thinking like that's not a precon. That is a fully tuned deck. Like, it was just so wild how well that performed out of the box.
I like it. Okay, cool. You've won the fight. We move on now to a very fighty type of place, which is Warhammer 40K. So 40,000 according to they get they're very precise about that sort of thing. So here we had Inquisitor Greyfax, Forces of the Imperium, which I believe was an Esper tokens deck. Sazarek, the Necron Dynasties deck, that was a black vehicles and artifact creature type of deck. The Swarm Lord, Teamer +1 counters the Tyranid Swarm, and Abaddon, the Ruinous Powers, which was a Grixis chaos feeling type of deck. I thought all of these were great. If there was any set of precons that you're going to keep together just forever, this is probably it. It felt so thematic.
is a really good one. Yeah.
What you wanted them to be. I have positive impressions about most of these lists, especially the Necrons deck. I thought that was very, very strong.
I think Necrons was great. All 4 of these, like you said, Joey, if you kept them as a time capsule, this is a really, really good one to do. The problem was, and it's hard to not knock the set for this, is it was so stinking hard to find these out in the wild. Like, you just couldn't buy them. And if you did, it was for a significant markup, which dampened a lot of the excitement for it.
Okay.
That said, though, these decks, like this environment was so freaking fun. The reprints were good, but like the new cards was what this was all about. And the new cards were incredible.
Especially in the Tyranid deck. I like Biophagus or Biophagus.
Tyranid deck was sweet.
Yeah, I really like the new cards a little bit more than I liked the deck as a whole, personally. I would place the Tyranid deck personally probably in B, whereas the Necron deck I would place in A. But like if you wanted to make the case that more of these should be in A, I also feel like, yeah, these were all just like, I'm happy to be convinced, you know, like these made positive impressions all around.
To me, all of these are at least at B tier. Having them be at neutral plus, just because like the experience playing them all together was so good. I think everybody kind of felt like the Abaddon deck, which was the Ruinous Powers, Grixis, demon-y type of deck. But also that deck was able to just go over the top if left unbothered, because what happened every single time was the Tyranid Swarm would jump out because it's a powerful deck and it is capable of some really fast starts. The Necron Dynasties and the Imperium decks all kind of like beat each other up a little bit, and they forget about the Abaddon deck that then comes over and like, oh, I'm going to start casting all these 8-drops now, and it gets really out of hand. Like, it's a really, really fun environment. I loved it. Like, I would put the Abaddon deck, now that we're talking about it, probably a B tier still, but the Tyranid deck and the Necron deck at A. I think that's where I would put them all personally.
I had more of a negative feeling with the Abaddon deck. I'm gonna absolutely with you on Tyranid and the Necron deck in A. It makes a whole lot of sense to me. The Abaddon deck, I was almost willing to put down. I was feeling a little bit more C.
Really,
it was a bit more chaotic. In like, it was harder to make all of the things point in a single direction. It felt like it wanted to be wild rather than be wild for a purpose. But even then, I can't put up a big fight here. I still thought that they were generally very positive all around.
Yeah. And to me, like, if it's generally positive, I struggle to put it into D tier.
Yeah. No, I was saying C tier was where I was almost feeling.
Oh, C tier. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. C tier is fine if we want to meet there, but yeah, B tier for the Imperium deck. Like, yeah, it also had like, it probably had the best new cards outside of the Tyranid deck.
And also, if you're making a great case for the, like, we do keep saying that these are all fun. So me putting one of them into C compared to you saying I had so much fun with these, Joey, I'll go ahead and follow your lead and put that up into B tier. These totally make sense. These were positive experiences, even as the weirdness of Universes Beyond was going around. Especially there was a heyday of conversation around that time. This one still managed to impress everybody. So as a set, I thought those were really lovely. Cool. That brings us now to Dominaria United. We had 2 decks here: Dihada, Legends Legacy, a Mardu Legends Matter deck, and a 5-color Jared Carthalion deck called Painbow. Again, 4th wall break of a name. I did not think that Painbow was very successful, unfortunately.
I thought it was kind of a painbow to play bow.
Yeah. Like, I think it falls into D tier because I can see redeeming qualities about it. I did not think that it flopped and fell completely on its face. I could still see things with it that were pointed towards a direction. I just did not find it exciting. As 5-color decks go, I thought it left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a nice way to put this, but I can't, so I'm just going to say D tier at best.
Cool. That's a very concise way to say it. In fact, the absence of saying anything sometimes speaks volumes. What about Dihada, though?
It does.
I would not put Dihada in D tier. I thought she was excellent. I thought this deck was very, very good.
I thought it was a fun deck. I want to put it higher, but then when I compare it to some of the other decks we've talked about, I can't put it into A tier, I don't think. I think B tier is a good home for it, because long term, like, it's a neutral positive. It wasn't like breaking too much ground. It was doing Mardu Legends. Like, we've seen Legendary Matters types of themes all across the boards ever since Commander's been a thing. So yeah, I like the deck. I still have that deck with Shanid at the helm, which was the backup commander in that Precon. Yeah. It's a good deck.
Yeah. I like your read on that for sure. That'll move us along now to the Baldur's Gate decks that came right before it. We had Captain Nagathrod, the Mind Flayers deck, a Dimir deck that is milling other people to steal their stuff out of the graveyard. Faldorn, Exit from Exile, a Gruul Exile Matters deck. Nalia, Party Time, which is had Barakos as well in that list, and Orzhov Party, I really enjoyed it. A lot of Treasures Matter stuff there too. And then Furkrag, which was a Dragons and Goad deck in Izzet colors. Matt, is it safe to say that we need to immediately and without hesitation put that Faldorn deck into the highest tier available to us?
I believe so. This deck, even today in 2026, you can play it out the box and it's just going to do some really, really good things. It's arguably, it's up there with Belial, where it was like one of the most powerful commanders out of the box. If you upgrade it, it just gets better from there.
I blinked and it had 9 wolves in play just from playing lands and stuff from Exile. It was brilliant. I also had really positive experiences with the Party Time deck and the Mind Flayers deck as well. I thought that it was a nice approach to mill, taking their stuff and in cool service of that. I thought it was neat to see horrors used in that way. And I obviously, I still play the party deck as well. I think that Barakos was a better leader for it than Nalia was, but I also had really positive impressions with both of those.
So Baldur's Gate as a set and as a precon environment, people weren't really excited about it because there was not a ton of reprints, but we had a reprint set immediately after. There was a lot of drama at the time around the release of Baldur's Gate where people were really low on it and didn't want to give it its time of day. Because of that, there was so much stuff that was slept on from this set. Like we are still today finding all these cards like, oh man, this random uncommon actually is sweet. And the precons are kind of a really good example of that. People were so bent out of shape about the quality of the reprints in the main set instead of the new cards that were coming out that actually were just stuff we're going to be playing years later. Yeah, I think that applies to the precon environment here. Like I think yes, Faldorn is S tier for sure. I think all of them are at least B tier from here. They all played out of the box really well. They are fun new cards. They were really cool designs. I mean, I just really, really liked all these precons here.
I would say B tier minimum makes a whole lot of sense, and I would fight personally for the party deck to be in the A tier because I think that it was strong.
Yeah, you played that deck a lot. Yeah.
And I'm probably biased there, but I also played the Nagathrod deck, and I'm still like, a happy B with that one there. If we're cool moving those in, I do think it makes a lot of sense. There was a lot of exciting stuff going on with that set. I thought it was competent. And even the Furkrag deck, which I have the least nice things to say about, was still doing stuff and still participated in the game and can kind of sneak up on you. So overall, I'm happy.
Yeah, it turns out dragons still can beat you over the head with dragons.
Yeah, and it's look what they do when you give them cool spells and when you make them your other opponents fight each other. The Gathra deck is also one of those that continues to impress as well. So I was extremely happy all around, and I thought there was a lot of invention happening in there that was nice.
Yep.
Okay, what do we got next?
Now on to the other side of the coin with what was one of my favorite precon environments to what probably is decidedly my least favorite precon environment that we've ever had, which is New Capenna. I know a lot of people really liked New Capenna as a set. They liked having the access to the color combos. I did not like any part of this precon environment, and I played it too many times to prove myself wrong.
Yeah, I want to, you're saying it's one of your least favorite ever. For me, the Outlaws is ranking pretty low as well. That said, though, I think we both fell in line on a lot of these grades. I think we have D's across the board for most of these as well, which I feel so bad about. So there are 5 decks in this precon environment. There was the Bedecked Brokers, there was Cabaret Cacophony, Maestro's Massacre, Obscura Operation, and Riveteer Rampage, each with the face commander that went to accompany it. The only one that I can give above a D tier, and it's just because the face commander was such a success, and it still is relatively popular, is Henzi Toolbox Torre, the Riveteer deck. I'll give that one a C because the commander had a lot of people really excited for a long time. But the other ones, I am not excited to see these across the table because just flashbacks, I guess. Yeah. I very much I'm happy to agree with you. It's unfortunate the case. The Anholo deck, I agree, D tier. Kit Kanto, I also felt was confusing. The Perry Pulverizer deck, Bedecked Brokers, I also, yeah, I can't really fight with you on that one either. And the
Perry
commies
the
deck,
Pulverizer was so disappointing because
multi-tier.
you could see what Perry was trying to do, and then they just did that, 4 years later with Titus in that deck.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. I know that a lot of people are going back to New Capenna Commander and finding some like cool cards that they feel were overlooked at the time. The fact that it was multicolored matters so effusively was another tough piece of it. Like they have limited
made it really
for each
hard.
of those. But yeah, you're saying this, and I'm just like, oh, do I feel that strongly about it? And yeah, girl, I can't be bothered. It's kind of unfortunate. That said, the Hensi deck I would actually almost put into B. I think that it was decent enough to rise from the others. But I do see the expression on your face, and I feel like I should be putting this. I should just drop it into the C tier.
If you're just putting Hensi into the B tier, I would agree. But putting that deck into B tier, I can't. I will fight you for the C tier on that.
I've already dropped it. You're good. Yeah, absolutely.
Fair.
Okay. I literally have to move our tier list around so much because it's getting so crowded up in here.
We've got a lot going on.
A whole lot going on here. Let's move on to our next. Wow, yeah, it is kind of a shame that we didn't enjoy those as much as we probably should have. That moves us to Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, which is also unfortunately kind of another neutral impression. I would say we had Chishiro, which was the Upgrades Unleashed. It was a Gruul deck that cares about having modified creatures, and it would power them up even further, auras, equipments, and +1 counters. And then also Kotori Buckle Up was the Azorius Vehicles deck, which honestly, Shorikai is such a more interesting commander than Kotori was. Kotori being the face of the deck honestly didn't even make sense to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just biased because I thought Shorikai is such a standout and it continues to be so good. But the Buckle Up deck I thought was like decent enough to give me a mildly positive impression. The Chishiro deck, though, unfortunately, I felt to give me a pretty negative impression. I didn't think that it was all converging very well because you're trying to make auras agree with equipment, agree with these +1 counters, and all of those things are all modifications, but that doesn't mean that each of the things that could enhance each of those strategies was cooperating with the rest of the list. So I felt almost D tier for Chishiro, to be honest.
I was going to give Chishiro C tier. I was going to give both of the decks themselves C tier. Now, you mentioned Shorikai, which is the most built Azorius commander, and it's not really close.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we probably could bump up the Buckle Up deck because, like, it gave us one of the most popular commanders in the color combination. But the decks themselves, I thought were fine. Like, B or C tier, like, I'm very neutral on these. Chishiro, it was trying to do a few too many things, but it also let you decide what you wanted to do after the fact, which I thought was fine. And that's kind of one of the benefits of having modified versus specifically auras or specifically enchantments or whatever, or equipments. So I understand what they were trying to do, and giving kind of a more broad benefit in something like modified, I thought it was fine. I didn't love it. And when you're competing against all these other things, like, yeah, I can see why you don't want to put it any higher than C, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I think I'm even struggling to put the Kotori deck into B tier. Like, I kind of pitched it, but honestly, it might still belong in C.
Yeah.
They had a Kappa Cannoneer in it. That's a good card. I don't know.
There were some good cards, yeah. I struggle to think, like, as cohesive decks, though. I'm like, yeah, they're there. Like, I'm neutral minus maybe.
I think we're talking ourselves into neutral minus here. So Kotori goes there, and then where would you like Chishiro to go? The C or D?
I think Chishiro is C tier as well. Yeah, like I said, if we're doing individual commanders, the rankings would be a little bit different because, like I said, we got Shorikai, which is a hugely popular. It has over 5,000 decks more than the second place Azorius commander, which is. That's a huge gap. That's huge.
But as the support goes, I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Katoria should have fought harder to be in B tier, but I can't really malinger on this one for too much longer because now we have Crimson Vow coming up next, which had Millicent and Strephon, an Azorius spirits list, and a new attempt at vampires after Edgar kind of like claimed the entirety of vampires. So this was Strephon
dominated.
Blood Tokens Matters, cheating big vampires into play as opposed to looking at the smaller ones. I might have been too generous here. I wrote A for Millicent initially because I do think once that deck gets going, it really gets going. But maybe I'm being too generous there. What do you think?
If you are looking at it retrospectively, then yeah, you probably want to knock it down a little bit. But if you were playing at the time, chances are you got ran the heck over by a Millicent deck. I think Millicent's definitely an A tier deck in my mind, at least.
Okay.
Because again, if we refresh ourselves on what was it like when these came out at the time, Millicent was sweet. Like, everybody wanted that deck. It was super powerful. It had some really cool new synergies and ways to generate those spirit tokens. I think Millicent deck is definitely an A. Strefon, on the other hand, definitely not A tier. That's for sure.
Yeah, if I'm being generous, I think a B is what I had written, but I don't feel strongly about that. I appreciate that it was trying to make something happen for vampires that wasn't just, we've seen Edgar Markov do that. That said, I don't know why. I should.
In my notes, I had it in C tier just because Blood tokens never amounted to anything, and
that's the thing.
We had Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow back to back to really kind of congeal into one cohesive deck, and I don't think it just did.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% correct there. So I've moved that one down there to see with you. Okay, then Crimson Vow, the set before that, Midnight Hunt, had a pair of precons as well for kind of the two of us, Matt. It had a Selesnya Humans deck.
Kind of. Yeah.
And it had a Dimir Zombies deck. You're a Selesnya Human. I'm definitely a zombie.
I am.
Of Dimir predilections indeed. I thought one of these decks was great. I thought the other one was garbage.
I thought one of these decks was good. I think Wilhelt, and again, we have separating the commander from the deck. The Wilhelt as a commander, probably S tier. It was super pushed, super powerful. I was going to put the deck itself in B just because the novelty, like, we've seen a ton of Dimir zombie commanders. So this was just kind of taking another shift on that. So like the novelty wasn't there. I don't remember at the time how great the reprints were in either of these decks.
I liked them. I felt like it hit all of the zombies for the most part that you want a deck like that to hit, and I felt like it was kind of invigorating the strategy and doing it competently. It had most of the stuff that I felt I would have wanted. Is kind of was the impression I came away with. But definitely, had plenty of room for upgrades as well. So I leaned positive, but I feel like it also kind of had a big impact when it did come out. So I was inclined to put Wilhelt in A tier, but I also was trying to recognize my biases.
Fair. No, and recognizing my bias, even though, like I said, I know that I had my Selesnya Humans commander, and I had that deck for a long, long time. It wasn't Lenore, but it was the backup commander that we got in that deck. Yeah, Kyler. But even then, like the rest of the deck, like you had to make upgrades to Kyler to have it be functional. Both these commanders, well, I guess both of these decks, to me, are teetering on that BC level. I would put the Coven counters into C tier because the deck was definitely shifted towards Lenore, which was not a great commander. No. So that it's probably C tier for me. I don't want to put it in D because like there still was some cool stuff. Like there were cool individual cards in the deck. Okay. There were some fun designs, but again, neither of these decks were like breaking new ground either. It was doing Selesnya Humans and Dimir Zombies, and we've seen that 1,000 times.
All right, Matt. Either you let me put Wilhelt in A and I put the Lenore into C, or we put Wilhelt in B and I put Lenore into D. So do we shift up or do we shift down? You make the call.
Let's say, when I compare it to some of these other decks that we've been putting into A and B tier, I would say we shift them down. Okay. I'm fine putting that Lenore deck into D tier more than I am putting Wilhelt into A tier.
Okay, that's a bummer. I was hoping you'd say the other thing, but I gave you the ultimatum. You made the call. I did not like that Lenore deck. There's so much you could have done with it.
Yeah. Once you made the upgrades and Kyler got to take over, then yes, it was a really, really fun deck, but then it wasn't the precon anymore. You just had a fun commander.
Yeah, okay. But justice for Wilhelt, I really like him. Okay, moving now to Forgotten Realms. We had Galea, the Aura of Courage deck, which was another equipment and auras off the top of your library. She would let you play them. We had Prosper as well, Planar Portal. It was Erectos, play things from exile, make a ton of treasures. Sivris, Dungeons of Death. That was an Esper Dungeons deck. And Vrondis, which would roll dice, give you dragons, gruel, go smash, and roll lots of dice. Overall, I don't even know how I feel about any of these. I know that Prosper became super popular for the time, and I do think it was really strong. Connecting that with the experience, playing it right out of the box, I feel neutral towards positive on several of these, but not very strongly positive about any of them. Or even strongly negative.
I think I'm with you. Like, even at the time when these were coming out, and precons was something that everybody kind of looked forward to all the time. Like, we always wanted the new batch of precons to come out. When Forgotten Realms came out, it felt just kind of also ran, if that makes sense.
Great way to put it. Yeah.
Fairly neutral on this. I do think the Prosper deck, just because Prosper as a commander, but also the deck, was head and shoulders above the rest. But the other ones are like maybe B or C tier. Like, they're perfectly serviceable, and I'm not going to tell you like you're wasting your money, but I also think that they're the best use of your money if you're buying these.
Mm-hmm. So Prosper, you said B tier?
I think Prosper, yeah, B tier, maybe A, like A as a commander, B as a deck. I think, yeah.
I like that read. And then the others, I'm trying to defend them, and I don't know that I can. I feel like the Zephyr deck was kind of fiddly in having to move through dungeons to eventually get to the point that it wanted to get to. The Draconic Rage was interesting. Like, roll the dice, get the dragons, but then the dragons also pop immediately. So, like, a nice power cap. Yeah. I appreciate that, but And then the Gallia deck, trying to make auras and equipment all converge into a Voltron list. Admirable attempt, but still a value neutral.
I think C, yeah.
Left on me. So we're putting C on all these?
I think C. Yeah, I think C in all these is probably a good home, yeah.
Okay, understood. Let's get those in there. Yeah, kind of weird to look back. I hope that we're not letting the present bias our impressions too much, but it is hard for me to like go back and like be a champion for them, you know?
Yeah, I don't think we are being too biased because, like I said, in the moment, they just kind of felt there.
Yeah, that's a funny way to put it. Okay, moving now to the original time that we went to Strixhaven. Mm-hmm. Oh man,
decks that certainly felt more than just there.
Yeah, this is maybe the most fun I've ever had playing Magic, was playing these decks against each other. I loved it so freaking much. We had Adrix and Nev, that was going to be Quandrix, doubling up your tokens, giving you more fractals. We had Brina the Demagogue, which was doing Silverquill politics. We had Osgir the Reconstructor, breaking new ground with Lorehold, literally. Willow Dusk is probably the one that I was like, oh, you suffered the most. That was a Golgari life gain deck that could also give you +1 counters depending on whether you gained or paid life. And the Zephi deck was stupid. That was another Storm deck that also would just like go absolutely crazy right out of the box. With a reasonable cap on it, but still crazy with a cap. Was wearing a nice hat. So I felt great about all of these decks.
Yeah, all of these were good decks. Osgir probably is the most successful as an individual commander and the deck, just because it like you said, it did break new ground into what Boros at the time had been doing, and now as Lorehold, it was really breaking some new ground. So in retrospect, that deck is probably an A, but at the time it's probably an S. Like, it was, nobody thought that Osgir was ever going to be unseated as the most built red-white commander. I think just full stop there.
The invigoration was really that fun. It put in there was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can probably put Osgir as the highest rated deck among this precon environment. The Prismari deck was pretty fun. Adrix and Nev, the Quandrix one, and then the Silverquill, they were all fine. I think Brina actually, as a commander, is much higher than the deck itself when it comes to Silverquill. But also, like, I think some of the new cards that were in the Silverquill deck were some of the coolest in that environment as well.
I mean, that's where we got Inkshield, right?
That's where we got Inkshield, and that's over the top card.
Yeah, Brina was asking you to go out on a limb. Her reprints were not great in that deck, but it also like gave you a new version of politics that I think was actually very successful when you gave yourself the proper chance to look at these cards and go, what can I do that doesn't rely upon just me, but also like invites other people into that experience. I understand why some people would be maybe put off of it though, but generally I rank these so high. The only one I give a negative impression to is Willow Dusk, because the life gain deck strategy, it was bold, it was a nice attempt. I don't think they executed it as well as they could have, and I would, if I'm being especially negative, I would almost probably put Willow Dusk in D, because I don't think that strategy was even given the tools to really pay off as much as it probably should have, compared to where we've seen Golgari be able to move now. But several of the others, I would put Osgir into A. I would put Zephi into A tier, the others into B tier, and then leave Willow Dusk as the lowest. How do you feel about that?
I like that plan. I would, if you're gonna put Willow Dusk into D tier, I would probably push actually for S tier for Osgir. I like I said, for what it meant to everybody back when that set was released
At the time,
Osgir was thought to be untouchable for a long time. Now, obviously, time has passed, and we can kind of correct that, but it still is a super powerful deck. We see the impact of it when we just went back to Strixhaven a couple months ago, and then the rest being in B tier, I think is a perfectly good rate.
Yeah, it was such a fond place. I just the entire idea makes me smile. And even if I'm being a little bit critical of the Willow Dusk as a package, I still enjoyed what the entire setting was. That feels to me like an ideal place. And it's nice seeing the way that a lot of those things have grown up now in the Strixhaven set that we just got a couple months ago. What a memorable spot. Moves us into Kaldheim now, Matt. Here we had Ranar, Phantom Premonition, caring about foretell and blinking stuff, giving you spirit tokens, and Lathril, Elven Empire. The Golgari elf deck, Supreme. Lathril remains one of the most popular commanders.
Yeah. And it's hard to argue with that kind of longevity. Like what we just got done talking about, like we got Lathril, which everybody still is playing. We thought Osgir was going to do the same thing. And so it's really weird to say all those things about Osgir and not say them about Lathril.
The thing worth pointing to, weren't these decks also like really budget? They were a lower price, a lower MSRP than most of the others as well. Like that's a nice plus on these. You got a pretty good deal, I think.
Yeah, so Lathril probably is A tier, if not S. Ranar, I don't think was bad. We just got something that just far and away outclassed it when we got Millicent a couple years later. But even then, it wasn't a bad deck necessarily. So at least I would say C or B tier.
I like C for Ranar. I think it made the most forgettable kind of feeling for a whole lot of people. But if you do actually
that's
properly upgrade the deck, it can actually do some remarkable stuff. But it's still a little bit controlling even when you
like put a Millicent into it.
Lathril, I am struggling about hey, should I go into A tier for this versus S tier for this? Because I'm trying to decouple the fame and power of Lathril on her own compared to the deck apparatus that was actually supporting her. So I'm divided.
The deck still was pretty good though. All you had to do is just put an Elvish Mystic and a Llanowar Elf in there, and you have a pretty good deck start.
And it had a lot of the good pumps stuff in there too, and it was a lesser price thing too, wasn't it? If you want to put
let's give it S. Give it S.
Give it S. Yeah, we gotta respect Lathril. She was up to some gnarly stuff. She's a really strong piece of cardboard. We had another pair of just two decks shortly before that. This was at the tail end of 2020 that we're moving into now here with Wylith and AC. This was the Arm for Battle and the Reap the Tides precon, a Boros equipment deck. Whoa, who saw that coming? And a landfall deck for Simic. Oh, whoa, who saw that coming? These were connected to the Commander Legends set, which didn't feel entirely necessary to me to have precons with the Commander Legends thing. Confusing. I didn't like either of these. I thought both of these were bleh.
Oh, okay. So Wylith, I agree with you. That one probably destined for D tier at best. Maybe even F. It was doing something that even back then we were complaining about. Okay, Boros equipment matters, legend, cool. Moving on. The meme had already been created and had matured. Wylith is way down there. AC actually, that deck. Ugh. I had that precon and it went so hard. This is one I have to remind myself when this deck was first released, it's at least an A tier because this thing was oppressive.
Really? The thing with it was trying to. It did that thing where the commander is so powerful, but they used the 99 to disguise how powerful the commander actually is because they made it all sea creatures matter. And if you're building on sea creatures, then AC's double landfall draw you 8 bazillion cards per turn as your lands enter doesn't look as good as it actually is. So if you are just doing sea creatures, then okay. And so to me, I did not care for it, but I also won't fight you hard.
There's only 4 or 5 sea creatures disguising it. That's the direction that I went when I upgraded the deck a little bit. I was I tried to build it in good faith because it was so inappropriately dumb because we had already had Tatiova and this was just a bigger, better Tatiova. And so I think people were kind of dude, we get it. Simic, go Burr. We understand. That was kind of the community response, but that also doesn't mean like this deck out the box didn't just go hard.
Okay. You know, I'm letting some negative impressions color my biases here, so I will take your word for it. You have a lot more experience with it than I do. I'm happy to take your word for it. You're saying AC goes in the
A rank for AEC? Yeah.
Wait, A or C?
I mean, I would say A.
AC.
A
C. What you did there.
Okay. Yes.
Wylith, though,
Wylith. I'm gonna say, just because we already, even back then when this was first released, people were so sick of Boros equipment, and we still got another one. I'm tempted to put it in F tier.
These were also both budget compared to the typical MSRP of a deck. Does that save it at all? Is that a redeeming quality that would push it to D tier?
Not really. No.
Yeah. The thing that frustrated me with this one is that it was more of a Sunforger deck than it was a Wylith deck. I hope that makes any sense. I felt like someone who was really obsessed with let me make Sunforger look good, as opposed to let me make the most interesting and competent and powerful deck for, not even powerful, but like interesting for other people to play with. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily happy either. Bummer.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many decks here, Matt. There's so many freaking decks here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for people watching that the tier list
going.
keeps getting smaller and smaller to look at, but there's just so many more that we have to get to. I'm trying to fit it all on screen. Okay. Coming up next here, now we have Anawan and Obun. This was a Naya Lands deck, and that's fine. And then there was a Rogues deck that could also mill people and draw you some cards, and that was also fine. I'm being a little bit mean here. They were actually decent, because again, these were easier to get a hold of budget wise, and I thought that the Rogues deck in particular actually made a positive impression on me. But I don't know that anyone cared about the Lance deck like at all.
I don't think anybody did. Like it's C tier probably at best for me. It was kind of doing a little forgettable. Yeah. We had Phylath in the main set that kind of felt better in just every way. I don't think anybody really cared about Obun. Like there are a few people maybe, but yeah, I remember Anawan the Ruin Thief in the sneak attack deck had all sorts of rogue synergy going on there. It was actually kind of annoying to get out from under. I remember at the time too. So like that it was a fine deck. Like it didn't age well at all, and I don't remember it like having any super cool new powerful cards. It just kind of was doing its thing and
yeah, it had like 2 new cards because that was like the gimmick of these like budget decks are easier to get a hold of. They cost less money because there's less original work put into them. And one of them was a blade that was like really, really awful. So the new cards, nothing to report there. But I still thought the deck overall was just like, hey, you know what? I enjoyed this.
Yeah. I think they're fine. Like, well, the Anawan deck is fine. But like, yeah, I think B tier is fine. It's like it's perfectly, acceptable deck.
Yeah. Very neutral as these go. That'll move us now, though, to one that we probably have a lot of strong opinions about. Ikoria C20.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Listen, the first one who's staring us right here is Gavi Nestwarden. This was the Jeskai cycling deck. I don't know about you. I don't know how you feel. I did not care for her.
You know how I feel.
F tier? Are we putting her in F tier?
I think we're pretty firmly putting Gavi into F tier. And honestly, we need to make an argument to not put Otrimi into F tier. Mutate was such a nightmare of mechanic that like it soured this entire deck for me.
Yeah, that, and I don't know that the payoffs were there. Otrimi would get you a Mutate card back from your graveyard, as opposed to the other stuff that we saw Mutate go on to do in the main set, where like the more that a thing mutates, the more effects that you get. I think Aluna was one of those. Like Mutate was done more interestingly in the main set, and this Mutate Precon was not able to give it what I thought it deserved. If you're saying F, sure. I'll go. It had a Deadly Rollick in it. Gavi had a Fierce Guardianship in it. Those I don't consider redeeming enough qualities to push them out of the D tier, because as playstyles go, the Gavi deck especially just stalled out immediately. There were not enough cycling cards to make that thing consistent, and the way that it would win the game was by not.
Yeah, it's coming into Gavi has the same problem that we talked about earlier, when like you have a commander that is specifically dialed in on one mechanic that just doesn't have a ton of support. It has the Kozla problem, where you want to cycle a bunch of things, but when you only have 20 eligible cycling cards, if this deck came out now versus when it coming out when it did, it might have a better shot of succeeding, because we have probably 3 or 4 big sets worth of cycling support. but at the time it just didn't. And it didn't do enough either to reward you for such a small card pool. So Gavi, F, Otrimi, probably F. But that doesn't mean like the other decks in here were bad necessarily. Kalamax, the Arcane Maelstrom, which was the Teamer color deck, that actually did have a lot going on for it, especially Kalamax, the lead commander.
Yeah, copying your instance if you can get your Kalamax tapped. I guess I still feel like the deck was a C. The problem that I had with these lists as well was that they opted for not having a lot of removal in them. They opted for having the impetuses instead, and that was supposed to handle your removal for you.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like it was well equipped to go out into the wild very much either. And I hated the way that they played against each other. Cathrall would always win that Precon environment every game that I played it. And the Jarina deck was kind of an also ran as things went. I just really
the Jarina deck was Jarina trying to reward you for casting your commander a bunch of times, but also it's like in a color combination that doesn't ramp very well. That really kind of stung and limited what Jarina could do. So, because no matter how good the deck was, like the commander, you're almost never playing it. So
it's just like,
okay, I do think Kalamax, a couple of humans, I guess. Kalamax was probably the most successful of the like Kalamax. I remember you could make very few upgrades and it would be a tier 1 deck.
Right, because it would just go infinite with an oops. You just play one copy spell and suddenly you have an infinite dino. Yeah. I don't like that either. That's a bad thing for me. Upgrading this deck means you immediately become a combo deck. Flip. The one that I would put into B tier is personally Cathrall. I think that I still have feelings about the way that keyword counters were executed here, but I do think that one actually leaned towards at least an original direction that did so competently. So that's kind of where I end up falling.
I do think Kalamax probably deserves a place in B tier as well, but the rest, I'm with you. C tier, F tier.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm saying Cathrall B and you're saying Kalamax B, I won't fight. I still think the lack of removal in most of these was...
Yeah, and that's... the setting itself was kind of rough. I don't think it was as bad as New Capenna, but it wasn't great.
New Capenna at least had removal spells. Jarina, were you saying D tier? I felt like that was also just a jumbled mess.
At least a D tier, yeah, if not lower.
Okay. That's going to move us now to C19. We're getting to that point where there was like, only like one set of precons per year. We are moving back in time. And I think this is especially where we'll start to see these evaluations factor into what were people feeling at the moment, as opposed to how we just look through these decks from today's lens of understanding, appropriate ratios of removal and draw and things like that.
Yep.
These were all based around different mechanics. We had Anya Falconwrath caring about Madness in Rakdos. We had Gired caring about Populate, making lots of tokens in Naya. Kadena making some face down cards matter for the morph list, and Savine, the Mystic Intellect flashback deck in Jeskai. Jeskai sometimes has a rough go of it, I swear, because that Savine deck was end of sentence.
It wasn't great. It was really hard to get into. You could see what it was trying to do, at least.
The ironic thing is that within the Precon environment, I felt like that Savine deck could not lose. When I was playing it, it was the rest of the decks did not have enough oomph and late game power to make the Savine deck sweat in a way that just wouldn't just end up controlling the entire board. This is the deck that gave us Dockside Extortionist too, which could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your point of view. But
depending on who you ask.
But I am inclined to, I think I wrote down D, but I should have written down F. I do not think that Savine deck would be a good use of people's money, with the exception of the fact it had a rare card in it that now is banned, so it doesn't even have that.
That is now banned, yeah. No, I think probably the most successful, lasting wise, is probably Kadena, Slinking Sorcerer. It rewards you for all the face down stuff. It had the most support when it was built compared to Kaust or Faust, whichever one it was. When we most recently saw face down interactions, and you just have more support, and it's rewarding you for doing all that. So Kadena, I think, is probably the most successful still. But Gired's also a pretty good deck. I like that a lot. Angie Falconwrath as a deck. But just, it had the same problem that we were talking about with Gavi Nestwarden. It only had so many Madness cards that it ran out of fuel, and you had to play all these really bad cards just so you could combo off with your commander anyways.
And its win condition was like Boneyard Parlay to get a couple of creatures back from a graveyard. Like the Anya deck, I would personally place in D, and the Savine deck in F.
Yeah, I think that's honestly kind of fair. I would like Savine to be a little bit higher, but also just... as a deck at the time, even it was kind of rough.
Yeah, I think it had Elsha of the Infinite in it, which like probably could be seen as a redeeming quality for folks. But anyway, that leaves us for Gired and Kadena, and I'm probably being a little bit harsher on Gired than I need to be, just because every time that I played these decks against each other, it always went to at least turn 20, and it was always at least 2 hours long. I was really just like so drained of these. If I'm knocking Kadena on anything, the deck itself did not have many win conditions in it. It had like a biomass mutation was the only way you would win the game, and you didn't know that when you first were playing it. So it's a lot of value that couldn't quite manifest into a strong victory, but it gave you a good baseline for that. And like people love Kadena for a good reason. So I'm talking myself into being a little bit more positive than I started. So where do you think we should place these?
I mean, so I think again, this I have to refresh myself on how are we feeling about these at the time. Angie's like C or D, but Kadena I do think was a pretty positive overall. It was doing a lot of cool stuff. It was innovating quite a bit, actually. We had seen that before, but I think A or B tier for Kadena, and then for Gired, I probably still a B tier. It was doing some big cool stuff, and you could populate. Being able to do it every single turn was a big deal back then. So yeah, there were some fun new cards. I really remember both of those two standing out. But then people would buy the Anu Falconwrath deck just for the commander and then throw the other 99 away.
Yeah, it was kind of messy. But okay, B on those. You've talked me into being a little bit less negative than I was feeling. Thank you for reminding me to stay positive. Ted Lasso, I appreciate you. We'll move now to... to Commander 2018. These were the Planeswalker commanders. We had Aminatu the Fate Shifter, Esper, top of your deck matters, and also Manifest something for some reason. The Estrid deck, which was doing a whole bunch of enchantment stuff in Bant, because of course. Lord Windgrace, lands in Jund, and Saheeli, which was the artifacts deck. Right off the bat, we do have to knock this particular precon setting for having not great reprints all around. The reprints were substantially less than many of the previous years had been, and that was a pretty big knock against these. That said, I think that the territories that they were playing in were pretty interesting and original. It was wild that we had not yet seen a proper Is It Artifacts deck before that point, for instance. And the, solidifying some of these places like the Landfall for Jund, the proper enchantment stuff going on for Estrid, and Tuvasa finally being there. I do think that these were actually like setting some foundations in place, which from our lens here might not look exciting, but the concepts were actually pretty solid.
Yeah, no, 100%. I really think Estrid the Masked was the one that kind of tied everything together, because we finally had Selesnya, we had some Simic, and we had all the two color pairs individually, but never tied together in one Bant commander that cared about enchantments. So that was super, super exciting for everybody back then. I think Estrid still, like, it hasn't held up well, but for what it meant at the time, I think 3 of these were actually pretty impactful moving forward, with the exception being Saheeli the Gifted. We had kind of, it wasn't doing anything super exciting, but Lord Windgrace was probably the strongest. And still, like, if you sat down at a table and saw Lord Windgrace, you're like, okay, yeah, I get it, because it's just a really, really powerful commander.
Yeah, I think of these, the Estrid deck suffered the least from that problem, where this was back in that era where they were trying to have 3 commanders as possible face commanders, and they were all pointed in different directions.
Yeah.
And then they would try and make the deck that satisfies all 3 of those for no reason. And Windgrace does suffer a little bit from that. It was just like, here's a Thantis and a Gyrus for no reason, and some of the deck is trying to cooperate along those lines, which is like a Goad Spider and an X Hydra, whereas Windgrace is just like, let me do lands. Whereas Estrid, all of her, her and Tuvasa and I think it was Kestria was the name of the, or Kestia, they all cared about enchantments in a specific way, so that deck didn't have the division among it, which probably, like, right out of the box allowed for a very clean and consistent experience compared to some of the others. Like Aminatu had a Verena in it. What are we doing with zombies? That doesn't make quite as much sense. But it also had a Eureka in it, which went on to bombast the entire format. So kind of a mixed bag all around here. But it sounds like we might be talking ourselves into like almost an. Are we putting any of these in A tier? Is that what's happening?
I think Lord Windgrace for sure. I think there's an argument. Windgrace in A for sure. Estrid, I think there's an argument for that deck to go into A tier. Again, you have to really, really, really reinforce what it meant at the time, if not at least at B tier. Haminatu's probably B tier as well. It was a pretty impactful commander for a long time. Had a pretty good impact on the format. The only one that I think maybe goes below that B line is going to be Saheeli, but I don't think it's that far down either, because there still were merits. Like, you couldn't buy that and people would say, like, you wasted your money. I still think that there's a good amount of, okay, yeah, I understand why.
The reprints were still going to need to emphasize the reprints weren't really it with these decks.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
in terms of like, do these decks work and are they giving you a place to continue to go? That's fine. So like, I don't know. I'm worried about us being too generous to it, but I'll go with on the like A for those, B for Amanatu, and then I could say either C or D for Saheeli, but D does feel mean, despite me knowing that there was like hardly any value in those decks aside from the new original cards, which were impressive.
I mean, the more that we're talking about it, though, the more I'm like, is it a D tier deck though? Because I mean, the lasting impression from that one is probably the weakest for sure.
Yeah. I just put her into the D tier to see whether that felt right, and it kind of does. So I think that's kind of the
fair.
Yeah, which is a bummer. But I appreciate the foundations that these decks felt like they were doing. But if they had reprints, I would have rated them all good reprints. I would have rated them a lot higher.
Yeah.
Heyo, real quick, this is editor Joey pausing to pop in. I really can't stand behind my statements in this segment. While I did remember during recording that the reprints in these decks were pretty bad, I didn't remember how bad. And so during the whole long editing process here in post, I looked back again through these specific decks, and while I do still appreciate these decks for solidifying certain strategies within EDH canon, the reprints on these decks weren't just bad. They were god-awful, and I really should have ranked them each much more harshly, meaning that when meeting in the middle with Matt's higher evaluation on them, each of these would have been at least one grade down in our overall ranking. Sorry for the confusion. I should have got that during recording. I'm embarrassed. Please make fun of me in the comments for it. That's okay. And now let's get back to the show. Moves us now to the Eminence roster. Arabo, Edgar Markov, Anala, and the Dragon. Creature types matter. We got cats, we got vampires, we got wizards, we got dragons. These are well known to basically everyone who's playing Commander, because the Dragon and Edgar Markov remain enormously popular legends to this day.
Truly timeless commanders. We joked a lot about how, if they made something that was better than this, then there was a problem. Well, if they made a commander that was better than Edgar Markov or Dragon, then there's definitely a problem. For sure. And these are just, two of the lasting commanders. And for a long time, Arabo Roar of the World, the cat commander, that deck was pretty popular too.
The funny thing about these, the Edgar Markov is another deck that's guilty of that. Like, the face commander is so good, but the 99 itself is kind of messy, which disguises, probably from the designers even, how good that commander actually was, because they were trying to do like a life gain sub theme in there as well, which didn't really need it. But that's also the deck where we got Teferi's Protection. So
is the deck. It's the deck that we got Teferi's Protection, but also this Precon environment. This was one of the first times that, because Precons were still relatively new at this time, and we didn't get very many. This environment was really fun to play together. Like I got to play the Edgar Markov deck, and I know I've talked about this. It's been a while actually since I talked about the Precon League that, three of my buddies and we all brought the decks and we played them together and we changed a card after every single game. That was such a fun experience with this set of Precons. So maybe like I'm glazing over, I have some rose-colored glasses going on, but the Edgar Markov deck still gave you obviously all of these decks had a pretty linear path to upgrade them. And they're still just timeless. They still do a really good job. Like I really do think. Okay, get the obvious out of the way. Dragon S tier, just throw it up there. We know it's going in S tier.
Everyone
that deck
wanted it.
Like everyone. It's the deck every Timmy out there wanted. I honestly though, the cat deck and the Edgar Markov deck, I honestly think that if we remind ourselves of how popular they were, how innovative they were at the time, there's an argument for them to be in the A tier. Inala doing wizard stuff, it just didn't tie together. It was kind of a little misfocused. That one's probably lower in the C tier, but I didn't like the Inala deck near as much as the other three.
That's so funny. For me, the Inala deck was more impressive than the Arabo deck. It felt as though the direction that you could take, like there were infinite combos available to her, we didn't have to, but also within that Precon environment, I actually found her to be another one of those decks. I'm just like, so they really liked the control players, and if you gave her a minute to establish even a little bit of a moment to breathe, she could really run away with it within that Precon environment. Despite her crushing opposition, she actually could hold her own against these very aggressive lists, which I found pretty nice.
So, the experiences that you had with the Salmon Frodo deck in that Precon environment for Lord of the Rings, that's the experiences I had for Arabo, where it would be turn 5, you were getting beat down already, and they would just cast Arabo, and one person would be dead. And that didn't happen back then. Like the format was so much more battle cruisery than it is today, where if you just didn't get rid of all these cats that came down early, you were going to die.
Okay, interesting. I don't have nearly as big and strong an impression of Arabo from that time. I had it put it down as C tier. You would put it down as A tier. I guess we're splitting the difference on Arabo and putting it into B.
I think, yeah, split the difference at least, yeah.
Okay. And then Inala, I think we both probably were leaning towards C tier overall, even though I had nice things to say about her. And I do...
Yeah,
I actually should put her at least on the same tier as Arabo is how I feel. I felt like she was actually demonstrating a similar capacity personally.
I would push. I think she should stay at C, but also I don't feel that strong. But looking at some of the other commanders, though, like I have trouble saying that Inala is a better deck than some of the others that we've already put into C tier.
Okay, yeah, no, that's entirely fair. And then Edgar Markov has a Teferi's protection in it. Is that the whole grade?
It has two of the most broken cards that are still highly desirable in today's format with Edgar Markov and Teferi's protection. That's all it needs. There you go.
Okay, yeah, it was pretty nice. So I think we're putting it in A. I do think it was still too jumbled. Like when you look back on it, it's just like, what is this life gain crap doing here? For it to me feel really like an S tier, whereas the Ur-Dragon, even if I look back at it now and I see faults with it, everyone was clamoring for that list, and it was setting a whole new bar.
That thing was, the highest bar. Like that was the bar for how powerful precons had to be for a long time.
All right, we're scooching down now. I think even on the way that this will show up in the final edit, I can't even fit S tier in there anymore, just so that we can see all the stuff that is still coming up. We have a handful more to go. We're moving back now to Commander 2016, the 4-color decks: Atraxa, Breya, Kaneos and Tiro, Saskia, and Yidris. Atraxa Proliferate. Do I need to make an introduction for her? I don't think so.
Nope.
Cool. Yeah. Do I need to make an argument for her?
It was good. Atraxa was the most built commander for a long time. Yeah. It's just S tier, right?
I think so. That deck felt really, really good out of the box.
Everybody still knows Atraxa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody still knows her.
And it's not just that she herself was good. The apparatus that supported her, while it still had, some of the problems that are characteristic of a 2016 deck, still was just like, hey, girl, I'm here and you're going to know about it. I'm still going to do some pretty important things on that battlefield. I also had positive impressions about Breya. I thought she was also fantastic.
All 5 of these decks, like there's a reason that this precon set right here launched Commander forward in terms of popularity in a way that like nothing else at the time had. Like,
right.
Yes, we had precons, we had Commander product, but this was really when the floodgates opened and Commander started to become what we know today as Commander. Like it wasn't Elder Dragon Highlander anymore. It was becoming Commander. And this precon set was so powerful and so cool in designs, and it was so unique in all of the new things they were breaking ground with. Like Yidris, like I didn't like that color combination, but that commander and that deck, like they did a lot of just explosive things, and Breya doing all the artifacts, and all of these commanders were just good.
The commanders were good, but I also felt like most of the apparatus supporting them was also still admirable and give you the starting place that you wanted it to start. Breya, A tier, feels like where we were leaning with her. Like that.
I mean, I think there's an argument that Kaneos and Tiro go into A tier. I would probably lean more towards B.
I do too. It'd be maybe even C from a more modern perspective, but this also like really set the foundations for group hug, and I had this deck for a long time. And it was doing group hug in a quote proper way, whereas Bumbleflower is just like I'm pretending to group hug and then I hit you for 20+ encounters out of nowhere. This one you had to kind of observe and reach for where the win conditions actually are, so there is that knock against it, but it taught me a whole new level of playing the game that I still respect the crap out of. The dud of this list was Saskia. Saskia was aggro, but I don't think anyone cared, and she was easily the least popular going by the metrics both then and now.
I don't even think it was that much of a dud. I would argue like it's at least C tier because it still could do some really, really powerful things, and it was innovating in the whole what we now would come to call like group slug. That's what Saskia was starting to do back then too. And so like just from the point of view of like it was part of the 4-color cycle, and it really did give us a lot of innovative designs and just play patterns. I don't think it was any lower than C though.
I feel like she was kind of the redheaded stepchild of this
Definitely the redheaded
list.
stepchild, yeah.
But overall, most of these decks were still very successful. So we've got a positive view of them here. That leaves us with Yidris, which I would be inclined to put in B. It was a little bit messier. It was also like trying to do a bunch of wheel stuff. Yeah. It had a lot of wheels in there that were kind of distracting, but it also still was powerful at what it did. Like, this commander was cascading into stuff, and there were good value engines. This is also where we got Vial Smasher. So like even if it felt a little all over the place, eventually it could take that all over the placeness and set its sights on somebody and end them for sure.
Honestly, how have we been talking about these decks for so long? We just started talking about partner. Like that's such a huge thing. So like from that aspect alone, like I don't think we could put Saskia into D tier because it still has partners in there.
Yeah, is that where Timna's from? So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving now back to Commander 2015. These were the experience counters decks, which brought a lot of strong feelings from people.
A lot, yeah.
We had Daxos and Orzhov. Enchantments matter. That's how you get those. It makes a bunch of spirits based off of your experience tokens. It will make them bigger. Marin was the Golgari deck, giving you the ability to revive. Do I even need to introduce Marin? We know Marin. Mizzix,
we know
making
Marin.
Your spells cheaper based off of your experience. And then Azuri, my sworn nemesis, and Kalemni, everyone's favorite flop.
Yes.
For some reason, they were like, Boros, giants. That makes sense. These colors that care about tiny creatures, let's go with the giants for a precon, for our first ever Boros precon. Not to give away how I feel about these, but I have some feelings.
Yeah, we really needed the Commander 2016 precons after 2015 kind of being all over the place. Marin, I think we probably still goes into A. She's still a very, very powerful commander, and
the deck,
man, that deck was really hard to get out from under if you got established.
Yeah, I like A for her. It's, again, one of those at the time evaluations. If you look at it through a modern lens, you're kind of like, what's going on? But she was doing the game actions you wanted exactly that deck to do. And she had most of the apparatus that she would need to support her, and it was exciting to do so. However, the rest feel jumbled. The Daxos deck, I felt, was so all over the place and not able to get any momentum at all. That was my evaluation. Plenty of room for upgrades, but even then, most people weren't excited to do so.
It was also back in the day when enchantments, like, it was really hard to find 2 and 3 mana enchantments to really get those experience counters going with Daxos. Like, enchantments cost you 5 mana. That's just how it was. And so, yeah, like, you would cast Daxos and you wouldn't do anything for a turn because you didn't have the mana to then start casting all those big expensive things later on in the game.
Yeah, are we going C or D? I was inclined to put D for Daxos, unfortunately.
This feels really mean, but I also don't remember many of the reprints being that great. So, I mean, maybe D, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Then again, maybe we'll change our minds based off of...
Kalemni, I think Kalemni we can pretty safely, like, throw into F. That deck was a joke.
I'll make one argument for it, which was that the reprints, if you look back at it, are actually, there's some money in there, like Urza's Incubator and a handful of things like that. And I'm just like, you know what? The reprints were not as embarrassing as we all like to remember. That is a soft rebuttal. I don't feel strongly enough, based off of your expression right now, to say that that's... I'm just going to zoom in on Matt's face in the end. Matt, I was trying to play devil's advocate.
You know what to do.
That was not a sincere argument for me. Like,
if I can put a Lord of the Rings deck into F tier, we can surely put Kalemni into the F tier.
I literally introduced her as everyone's favorite flop. Kalemni was not it, and I still blame.
That's your answer right there.
Yeah, I still blame Azuri as the reason why Kalemni was a flop, because it was taking the tiny creature thing, which is what red and white should have been. But also, this was, again, Boros could not get draw cards. This deck would play a handful of things, then stall out immediately. You were just top decking the whole game. It wasn't a good deck. Azuri, I also don't think that this was a good deck. I know a lot of people got excited by Azuri eventually, but the impressive new card was freaking Command Beacon. And this deck was trying to make a bunch of tokens matter in a deck that wanted +1 counters. I felt it wasn't doing well. I still didn't like it either.
So I had this deck, and I actually really enjoyed it because, like, you got to play some things that would give you experience counters along the curve. Now, yes, there were some big creatures in there that kind of threw it off, but I don't think it was an F. I think it's probably C tier is a middle ground that we could find, because the deck still was a lot of fun. Like, you could cast your Llanowar Elves, and then you could build up to a Hornet Queen and still get a ton of experience counters and kind of playing around with different things. I still think it's a fine commander, but the deck also, like, I really enjoyed playing it, especially together. Mizzix also probably is going to be B or C tier. Mizzix was such a problem deck, like out of the box. It was so annoying.
Yeah, Mizzix B makes a whole lot of sense. She, you would start building her into those counter a spell unless they pay X, and I have 4 bazillion experience counters based off of that. It became a very powerful control deck from there. The Azuri, listen, I'm a longtime Azuri hater, but me disliking Azuri for this much does not outweigh your joy playing it, which is why I'm absolutely gonna. Thank you for giving me the grace to be a little complainy little person, though.
Of course. All right, so Commander 2014. We're almost to the end.
We're almost to the end. These were, again, Planeswalker commanders, all in monocolor. Dreddy, mono-red artifacts. Freyalise, which was green elves. Nahiri, the Fate Forger, I think maybe she was called. Nahiri, which was mono-white equipment. Obnixilis, which was a mono-black deck, and I don't have another descriptor for it. And then Teferi was a mono-blue deck that cared about time and untapping things. The one that makes the continual most positive impression to me was Dreddy, because of how novel it was. We had not seen artifacts in red like this ever before, and this kind of planted seeds that then eventually Osgir later grew into a real forest. I was really happy with the Dreddy deck. The built from scratch precon felt really exciting to me.
Yeah, Dreddy was hugely impactful when it was first released, and there was a lot of new cards that were really cool. You had Felden in this precon as well, and everybody loved that. Like, that's still finding its way into so many decks these days. So Dreddy, that deck probably belongs in S tier. It's probably one of our first S tier decks, I would say, that we ever got, because it just was super impactful, that we're still feeling today, like you said. Yeah,
it kind of set a certain... It was creating a legacy status that we didn't even know it was going to exist yet, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the invention that it was allowing to exist. It makes I continue to look back on it fondly. The Goblin Welder and switching things in. It was neat. It was so lovely to see. So S for innovation alone, maybe. The others...
Yeah, for sure.
I feel less good about. Nahiri, that deck, I didn't like. This is, again, when Mono White couldn't draw cards for crap. I would be inclined to put that no higher than D and probably an F. I really thought Nahiri was a flop of the deck. I know, I feel so bad.
I remember buying this deck and playing a couple of times, and I thought it was fine. It wasn't like an exemplary deck by any means, but it wasn't bad, I don't think.
All right. If I was gonna,
if I'm fighting uphill battles here about this, C tier is where I think probably the rest of these belong. Actually, Obnixilis, the one that I do think goes into D tier is Obnixilis.
I was going to put Obnixilis in that pre.
I really didn't think it was that's fine too.
And I love playing mono black. I love playing mono black. I did not think that this deck had the sauce. It was like
it made a ton of mana. Yeah, it made a ton of mana to do a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. But I also think that the Nahiri deck was really starved for any action as well. So that...
Yeah, I think the rest probably can go in B or C tier. If Nahiri is going into C tier, then I do think Freyalise was a better deck than Nahiri. Probably should go in B tier at that point. And then... I mean, Teferi was that combo deck. You could buy a precon, put a Chain Veil in there, and you could combo out immediately. And so that was such a cultural moment. It did have... Jesus Christ, it did.
Well, but that was also, like, Cyclonic Rift at that time was, like, a $4 card. Like,
a $4 card, yeah.
Yeah, no, they did not know then the power that they had unleashed upon the world. But Teferi, I still feel, like, mildly positive about it. If we put it in B, that makes sense to me. I am fighting for Nahiri to go into D tier, though. I thought that equipment deck really didn't have it, and it, again, was just top decking nonstop.
See, I can put it there if we put Freyalise into B tier, I guess, then.
Okay.
I appreciate that we're trading in these ways. We do need to have less bloat, actually. So, like, yeah, I follow the aesthetic in me needs Nahiri to be in D tier at this point.
Okay. What about Teferi? Where did we go?
Teferi C tier.
Sure.
It was a hugely impactful deck when it was created, like I said, because people would buy it. It made Chain Veil like a $40 card for a hot minute.
Yeah. And I felt like there were still like interesting actions that you could end up taking there, but overall I'm not like I felt like the Freyalise deck, I don't know, she gave me Titania from that list if I recall correctly, but most of those made like a very neutral impression on me. So splitting the difference between them both hovering on the edge of that B and C makes a whole lot of sense. I think, though, that is now moving us into the last 2 precon sets of the list. We had Commander 2013, and then our last one will be Commander 2011. But Commander 2013 is where they were playing around with the types of things that you could get rewarded for with the playing from command zone. So Derevi, for instance, was a Bant deck that was cheating around commander tax. Jaleva was giving you cards into exile, Mind Seize from your opponent's stuff. Marath, Will of the Wild to get more +1 counters that you could eventually turn into burner tokens. That was in Naya. Oloro was an Esper life gain deck that would just passively gain you life, and was, until Atraxa eventually came around, the most popular commander for a long time. And then there was Prosh, who gave you an irresponsible number of tokens. What the heck was that card? That was a lot of talking.
Prosh was the reason. Prosh was the reason that I felt that the Tuck rule should have stayed the same when it changed. Prosh was the scourge of every casual table. It led to so many pub stomps. It was such a problem. But also the deck, it was fast. By 2013 standards, it was extremely fast, because you could just, in the same way that we just got done talking about Teferi, you could buy a Chain Veil and combo out. You could buy a Prosh deck, add in a food chain, and combo out. The same thing. It was that was some of these, like Marith even, was a cultural phenomenon because of all things you could do with +1/+1 counters for a long time.
I feel, honestly, this was one of the lower existing precon sets for me. I was not very impressed with the direction that they were trying to take things in here. I remember the Jaleva deck, for instance, no one cared about it except for True Name Nemesis being in that deck. People would buy the deck, sell the True Name Nemesis, and then keep the rest and try to figure out what to do with it. I think that Prosh on its own is a very powerful card. I don't know that meant the rest of the deck really supported it quite as much. So it felt like, I'll give a positive impression to it probably, but not a strongly positive one. And I felt like this was a place where they were still figuring out what the heck they want Commander to be, and some of the results of those experiments were not responsible results. Like Prosh and Derevi were both kind of became menaces by accident, and so there wasn't a lot of control over things.
You had some weird cycles that they were printing in these. The multiplayer aspects of it started to come into play, and that meant a lot to what we were trying to do, because just tools and Commander was such a infant of a format back then. So I do feel like we need to give it some grace here, where yes, you had Derevi, but you also had Rune of the Hidden Realm. You had some of these really cool new designs that wasn't just on the face commanders, and this applies for all of them. So I think this one, like, we really do, because you look at the decks now, you're like, this is such a pile. Why would you ever play these? But this was like these were so big back then, because you had stuff like the curses that were coming back. You had stuff, the Curse of Inertia, Curse of Predation, all these things that were encouraging nobody knew how to politic back then when these decks were being printed. And so you really had to be taught because of the precons.
Yeah. I still lean on most of them. I still lean like a C tier for many of these, although probably Prosh's power alone would push it into B. Maybe Oloro as well for like creating that expectation.
Just because Oloro was kind of the de facto best commander until Atraxa came along, really.
I think that's the deck that also had Toxic Deluge in it as well, which does set a whole new standard. So, like, I'm trying to give my graces there, but for the most part, like the Jaleva deck, for instance, like, I would have put that in D tier.
Jaleva, I'm not fighting. I'm not trying to fight for Jaleva. That deck, you're 1,000% correct. Like, people were literally buying. They would go to a Target or a Walmart, buy the deck, take out the True Name Nemesis, and sell the rest.
Right. Yeah. Not a glowing endorsement.
Like it's almost F because of what it was doing to the format.
It at least had Nekusar in it, and Nekusar set a very interesting standard for Grixis for a long time. So I found a redeeming quality. That's the nicest thing I feel I can say about it. The Marith deck, where would you put Marith doing +1 counter stuff? I felt like a C personally.
A C? Why do you hate all these old things? Like, I get it. You hate me for being old, but
like the most interesting new card was what? Primal Vigor, which helps your opponents out with their +1 counters too. I feel weird about it. I don't know.
There was stuff like From the Ashes. There was the Tempt with Discovery cycle. Like, the politics were so new because nobody had designed, I guess I should say, for a multiplayer format before. So like everything looks really weird in retrospect. So these old sets are really, really hard to gauge because like we just didn't know what we had back then. If anything, we can knock them for being disjointed because more so than anything, they really, really tried to have parts of the deck. So a third of the deck was built for the face commander. A third of the deck was built for the backup commander 1. And the last third was for the third backup commander or second backup commander. So that's probably the biggest knock on them that like, but by today's standards, we don't do that anymore. So like, I really struggle to punish the non-Jaleva decks too much for that because they were just the way that design was and what we didn't know that we had in Commander was so new and they were trying so many new things.
Yeah. Okay. So where is it that we want to go? Those are you leaning mildly positive on these, or like a marathon?
I'm leaning I'm leaning positive on all of them, but Jaleva, honestly.
Okay. All right. I feel like at least one of them belongs in C tier. Okay. That's
fair. So if we have to throw one into C tier, I would probably throw Prosh in there in C tier and the rest in B.
Prosh is the one I was most happy to put in B tier. Oh no, we are at cross purposes.
Fair. I mean, maybe Marathon because, like you said, some of the cards were reprints. Throw Marathon into C tier, the rest in B because I do really think that these were important to have, and it's really easy to be like, oh man, this is such a bad deck. Like, yeah, by today's standards. But back then, like we needed those types of things.
No, that's fair. You're being very placating with me right now because I'm trying to be a little wag my finger gremlin and knock these down, but you're being very nice about it. And since you're being nice, and again, your joy with these things and your fond memories of these is a lot more important than me being a grumbly person about it. So if you're going to defend them that hard, that right there is the signal. And I think there are a lot of people out there who would feel exactly the same way. So even though at the time they kind of passed right through me, I was probably, honestly, let's be totally honest, I was still probably too obsessed with my decks from 2011. I was playing Mimeoplasm nonstop, and that's all that I wanted to do for the rest of time, you know? So I was probably just too biased, and I'm like, well, they don't hold a candle to my favorite deck, which was the Mimeoplasm from 2 years before. So I am trying to recognize my own.
Yeah, this was back. It wasn't even that we got precons every single set or every single year. We got precons every 2 years. That's what they originally wanted to do.
Yeah, they didn't know.
And we're doing.
Yeah, they didn't know how it was going to go down. But, Matt, that brings us to our final five. Our final five of precons.
Final five.
Which was Commander 2011. Gave Counterpunch. That was an Obzon deck that cares about tokens and +1 counters. And gave, famously, Broken as Hell. Kalia of the Vast, Heavenly Inferno, cheating those Angels and Demons and Dragons into play in Mardu colors. Riku of Two Reflections, who was going to give you some team or copy a whole bunch of your stuff, either your creatures or your spells. The Mimeoplasm, my darling boy. A Sultai deck that would cheat stuff out of the graveyard, and Mimeo he's my favorite design ever. I love him so much. Becoming copies of stuff, getting bigger. And then Political Puppets and Jeskai, the Zedru deck. We're at a final five.
Final five.
And where does fate place them?
I mean, so let's get the easy one out of the way. Zedru was so weird, and there weren't enough bad permanents to donate to your friends. Like you had to give them good things, and even then, there weren't enough random tokens you could make because we didn't have treasures or clues or anything back then.
Zedru those wouldn't even be good to give away because they would be consumed by your opponent. You needed poop gifts to give to them that would stick around.
Yeah. So, and like a lot of the bad stuff, like you couldn't even do stuff like donating an Eater of Days because it just hosed you so bad. So like Zedru was just ahead of its time. There was too many hoops you had to jump through to make Zedru like really good. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like the Zedru deck. I didn't back then. I still don't today.
I agree with you. The Zedru deck had, I think, 33 or 32 lands in it.
What? I didn't remember that part, but
maybe 34 at most. But the point is, it was definitely not enough, especially for a deck that was not playing nearly enough signets and other rent pieces.
Well, let's open up the Precon page. Here we go. So, all right. So EDHREC.com/Precon, opening up, and you're correct. 34 lands.
Yeah, there we go.
12 islands, 8 mountains, 8 plains. There was no color fixing in that either.
Yeah. And the deck needed you to give away stuff. So like it was trying to figure out what politics was. It did not do a successful version of that. Even at the time, I think we all kind of looked askance at that deck, right? Like it was trying something new, but it also eventually it had trade secrets in it that immediately got banned. So, you know.
Yeah. Zedru probably still is F tier, but on the flip side, gave Guru of Spores, gave Guru of comboing out accidentally, even from the start.
Yeah.
Gave was just head and shoulders above what everybody else was doing.
Yeah, of these, I feel like this deck kind of listed a bit too much into like the creative. Like there were a lot of cards that were just like, oh, we're in a forest, we're in a dark, swampy forest. So they were choosing a couple of cards for flavor more than like their function. But still, Gave was just a strong thing. And as precons go, I think this was an extremely solid introduction to that idea.
Yes.
I do also think that the Devour for Power deck, well, like by today's standards, Mimeoplasm has so much better targets that you could be doing, but it still actually did the thing of filling the graveyards and allowing you to revive stuff out of the graveyard. So I also found that like admirable, but maybe a step beneath it. The one that's a difficult thing to place is I think the Kaalia deck. Because Kaalia is famously super powerful, but her deck was a little bit jumbled because it had like random guild mages in there. And then here's an avatar, which is an angel, a demon, or a dragon. So the support apparatus for some of these, despite their power, was still like, how are we counting that, you know?
I mean, it still was, even if you didn't have good draws with it, you still could run over the game because everybody else was playing kind of equally disjointed decks, especially in this precon environment. So I still think that Kaalia is probably still pretty high up there.
I don't know, like you look back through her list, and a lot of the stuff that Kaalia could cheat in from the original precon deck was like a dragon whelp, like a 4-mana 2/2 dragon, or there was like a 5-mana 3/3 angel, or there were some demons that you needed to actually like cast from your hand, not cheat into play in order to get its effects. So like the level of excitement that we associate with regular Kaalia nowadays is not quite as big. The original deck contained a handful of outright non-bows that I kind of can't get past here, I don't think. Like Kaalia herself is an S tier commander, and I do think this deck had some of the most exciting upgrade paths. That's why she's remained such an enormous legend. I'm just trying to make sure that the nostalgia doesn't override the reality of what her actual precon, what the full package of the deck was really looking like.
I think Kaalia A for vibes, just because she's been such a lasting pain in the butt for commander players for 15 years.
Okay. You know, I think I'm actually going to pull the thing that you mentioned with Henzi. Like, if we were talking just the commander, it's an A, if not an S tier, but the deck itself I rank much lower. So let's meet down at B tier for the precon overall, just because my thing is that the support systems that I think existed for Mimeo and Gave right off the bat in those precons was a lot smoother in those starting 99s. Mimeo could very easily just fill the yard and could become copies of things and revive things very straightforwardly without nearly as many problems that Kaalia could sometimes experience right off the bat. And then Gave was also very easily able to make a compelling board just whenever you needed, and the deck worked really fine without him even arriving. So in terms of like the apparatus and the structure of their 99 might have been a little bit more cohesive.
I think they both could go in A then. If that's the case, Gave honestly could go into like, there's a world where Gave is an S tier because it was so impactful and so important at that time.
If we want to round things out with like, hey, these were creating a positive impression, even if they were a little wild about how they did it, I'm all right with that. In terms of, again, like if you play them nowadays, and then Riku of Two Reflections. This one I felt pretty meh about personally.
It was the commander was really good. The deck was okay. It's like B tier for vibes, or C if we're feeling nasty. I don't know.
I'm feeling nasty. I think we'll put Teema right there. I think we'll put Riku right there into the C tier. This is one that was trying to split the difference of just like, here's a lot of spells that matter and here's a lot of creatures that matter, and it was really tough to pivot between the two. So I don't know if this one was quite as nimble as maybe the other ones demonstrated they could become.
Yep, agreed.
Hi all, Editor Joey popping in one last time because there actually are more precons that we didn't have in that big huge list of all of the original Commander deck set release products, those being the all reprint precons, the starter Commander decks, as well as the Secret Lair pre-constructed decks. We did talk about these in a separate session and recorded that separately, but I didn't realize that the audio was not actually recording for that footage. No worries, just 3-hour episode problems. So I'll try and sum up and rapid fire give you the gist here. Because if we are going to rank all the precons, then we want to do it right. We want to rank all the precons. So here goes. For all of the starter decks, we just landed on a generic C tier for each of them. That's Isperia Blue-White Flyers, Gisan Geralf Blue-Black Zombies, Atarkar Red-Green Dragons, Amara Green-White Tokens, and Kardur Red-Black Aggro. Those starter commander decks are cheaper and kind of basic, in fact intentionally so, you know, no new cards, low reprint value, but we don't really diss them because they fit the bill that they're trying to fit. They're literally aiming at being simple, and they don't cost as much either. So since they're not gesturing at being grandiose and they're entirely playable and functional, we have neutral thoughts, just a C tier all around. We're not mad that they exist, but if you're an experienced player, you probably will want more pizzazz and will fall more in love with other decks out there, you could easily knock these down to D tier if you really felt strongly about it, but for what their purpose is as a product, perfectly normal C tier grade. The Secret Lair decks, we were hesitant to even rank those because Matt noted that they're more of collector pieces than they are precons. They are literally harder to acquire. They have those limited sales runs in the Secret Lair process, and there's a lot of stuff tangled up in that. In many ways, it feels moot to even mention them in an episode like this, things that are no longer even available within hours of them going on sale. But if we're going to be comprehensive, we'll rank them anyway. We like the coin flip deck with Okaun and Zinder split. The heads I win, tails you lose. It's quite strong. It's entertaining. If we were to give any of them an S tier, it's that one. If I recall correctly, that was also the one that happened before the prices on the Secret Lair deck started to get stratospheric, so that's also a bonus. The Cute to Brute deck, we just gave a C, honestly almost a D. The double-faced shtick is really cute for that list, but it was very limiting in terms of its output as well. So the concept is fun, but wasn't super impressive. Then came the Mono White Angels deck. That was a little better. That got a B tier. A good chunk of high value cards were in this list, and the strategy does work overall, but so much of the card advantage in the deck is reliant upon a heavy level of life gain that the main body of the deck does not innately support, so I personally was docking at some major points for that. Solid B for a good base to start from, but that is a lot of money to pay for a precon that you still probably will end up feeling like you want to upgrade. After that was the Cats and Dogs Secret Lair precon with Rin and Seri. I was actually a little bit harsher on this one because I've played against a lot of Rin and Seri lists, and I thought that the Secret Lair version of the deck had better art than deck construction. I could have been convinced to make this an A tier maybe, but our final grade eventually became a B tier. 20 Ways to Win was the next deck. That one was led by Go Shintai. This was an oops all alternate win conditions deck, and we just don't like it as a precon option, basically at all. I've played against this list several times actually, and while I like it as a person's deck, as a product, it's an absolute faceplant, F tier. Then we had Morophon, Everyone's Invited, a changeling deck. Neutral to negative impressions were happening here, unfortunately. Like, wasn't this one like $200? I remember at the time feeling that putting together your own version of this list would have cost about the same amount of money, if not less. So you were really paying for the art treatments here, and the deck itself needed some more tweaking to make your own and to make it a bit more punchy afterwards. There were some redeeming qualities here. It was not an outright bad list, but there were several things going on that caused a huge frown. We landed on D tier, sadly. And lastly, the most recent one, the Secret Lair Mono Red Goblin Storm deck with Zada. This is also kind of great. A little bit niche strategy-wise, but also pretty competitive right out of the box. It's obviously great at what it does. There were a lot of art treatments in this one that are worth noting, and there were also a decent chunk of high-money reprints in this deck that felt pretty good. Ultimately, this is kind of exactly what you'll want most strong Storm decks to look like, so we gave this one an A right out of the box. Again, each of these Secret Lair decks is a lot more of a collector item than a proper precon, and the starter decks are also a very different creature to the other original decks out there, so each of them becomes weird to rank among the rest. That is why we talked about them separately. I'm sorry that I lost that original footage, but in the interest of making sure that we're comprehensive and we rank them all, there's the full breakdown for you. And now, let's get to some final thoughts.
Well, what do we do now?
Now that we're done, what do we do now?
Now that we're done. Now we begin playing the game.
Yeah, now we begin playing the game. Man, I think final maybe impressions about all of these, because this was so much. This is easily going to be one of the longer recordings we've ever had. Matt, this is wild.
Yes.
But final impression, do you have an all-time favorite and maybe even an all-time least favorite of the stuff that we were discussing? Or a particular set of precons that you're just like, oh, or a set of precons that disappointed you? Like, any final impressions about where you think there was a tremendous success or a tremendous disappointment, and any lessons learned from across that, I suppose?
Yeah, so if we're talking disappointments, I know I struggle to find good qualities about the new Capenna precons. I did not like that set. I really struggled with it. Otrini, the mutate commander, another one that just it didn't do it for me in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. But really, like, anything that had a good environment together and just flavorfully all matched was a lot of fun. Like the Warhammer 40k decks, I really wish they didn't struggle so much from the distribution problems, because that was such a fun environment. I really, really enjoyed that, even though I have no attachment to the 40k and like IP at all. And Lord of the Rings, like I have a ton of decks that have grown from being precons. And so, yeah, I absolutely love precons. I think they're just such an amazing tool for players to get into the game, get into the format. Man, I there's so many highs. It's really hard to pick from one. Other than like, I'm really glad that you put Sam and Frodo, one of my favorite decks, into S tier. That feels good.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at these and trying to pick an all-timer, I still have that Hawkball deck standing out as like maybe one of the best. Hawkball and Hearthhole both stand out to me as like especially superb, and that Ashling deck. There's a handful of those that if I were to like see those,
Ashling,
if I were to just see those as
Ashling
precons,
is really
I would
hard.
believe it was a bracket 3 game. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of how I feel about all of those. And I'm generally feeling pretty happy. Like, honestly, the decently consistently high ranks for like the Baldur's Gate decks, I'm just like, oh, that's pretty nice. The Strixhaven decks being high, I'm hoping that I'm not too like recency biased about that, but I do feel as though those are making such a superb and fantastic impression. Whereas, like, in terms of surprising disappointments, maybe the Doctor Who stuff I tried to give a fair shot to, didn't quite pan out the way I wanted
Yeah,
to. I totally understand where you're coming from with the new Capenna stuff, but also the what is it, the Commander Masters and the March of the Machines things really
that
fell
was
flat
yeah.
for me
Those
in
were
that
surprisingly
series
low
too.
ranked. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of ones that you look at and like, oh yeah, that really was just like not a great precon. But yeah, it's if we're trying to think of all timers, I don't know, and I really hope that we never outpace Ashling as the most powerful precon. That genuinely might be the most powerful out of the box experience anybody can hope for. And yeah, Hawkball's really good. Pantlaza, I think, is very good. If you made if they redid the precon with Urza, I think genuinely that might be one of the most powerful decks too. Like that could use a refresh and be ready to swing instantly.
There's a handful of these now that we have the final list as opposed to going through it that like maybe we would feel inclined to move around or whatever. I'm sure that folks out there will disagree with plenty of our placements. We did talk about 154 of these things, and even in just talking,
We
between
have
the two
been
of
here
us-
for hours.
Yeah, even just talking between the two of us, you and I each made small adjustments here and down for the other person's experiences. So like, there's going to be so much variability to a whole lot of these. What a crazy history though, like 15 years of precons, and here's an image trying to capture where we feel we're at with all of them now. This was a wild exercise, and I really appreciate you going on this journey with me for it, because Lord knows it was a long time. It was a long journey, right?
We had to stop for gas a couple times, have a few snack breaks, but yeah, we made the road trip.
We made the road trip. This one was truly absolutely nutty. I hope that someone else takes this project and runs with it too. I want to see other people's precon rankings. We'll set up an image for our tier list, and maybe we can have something on Patreon too. But I'm really excited to hear from our Discord where they would place everybody. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If people want to spend 3 hours building out their own lists, then I mean, we only owe it to you to at least take a look at it.
This was rad, Matt. We got to call it to a close. My voice hurts from talking so much. I need some tea.
Same here. Yeah.
These were a really incredible time. This was so much fun. Let's call it out. Where can folks find you on the onlines?
So you can find me on pretty much any social media platform at Mathimus55. That's MATHIMUS55. And don't forget, we are so proud to work with Dragon Shield ahead of all of the amazing things they have coming out this summer. So if you want to get your hands on some of the best ways to protect all of your cards, head to dragonshield.com/EDHREC and use promo code EDHREC when you check out to get yourself a little discount at the same time.
And you can find me everywhere online, from Instagram to Blue Sky at Joseph M. Schultz. And you can find the cast online at EDHRECast. And remember to check out Cardsphere. Matt, you were just talking about how they can trade sealed product now. If you want to get some of these precons or some new cards that are coming out, that's a great place to do it. Cardsphere.com/EDHREC. Everyone will be back at you with even more data and insights. But until next time, remember, EDHREC your deck before you wreck your deck. And thank you for sticking with us for this super long episode.